Hello, welcome to Jason Old Millennial, and welcome my two guests here, Bryer from Breyer's Music Showcase and Nick from Townsend 505. Joining again as we keep going down each year and counting down our top 10 albums per year. Starting with 1960, and now we're in 1967. So now we're getting to the late 60 period now in music. So it's been a pretty cool journey that me and Nick started, and Bryer joined on last episode or two episodes ago, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how you guys doing?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Just enjoying this weekend. Yeah, of course, it's been kind of busy because I got school and all, but it's been all right so far.
Me personally, I think I'm having an amazing day. Prove all the Yankee fans wrong. Juan Soto was a Yankee but signed with the Mets. All the Yankee fans saying, "Oh, Juan Soto wasn't going to do anything as a Met. First bat, first inning, home run. You could cry, Yankee fans. You're not winning the World Series, but the Mets are, if not the Dodgers."
Yeah, Juan Soto is a baseball player. That's what you're wondering.
From the Dominican Republic.
Yeah, this should be a lot of fun. We all have a lot of favorites here in the 67 period. Of course, Scott himself, one of his favorite albums I know is coming out this year. And since Troy, Get Us Out of Here? I'm not sure what that is. Is it Chewy? I don't know. So I got Scott hopefully here in the chats. I'm sure he's pretty interested in our list. Before we get to our list, I don't know. I kind of want to ask a question. Yesterday I did my basically music of the 19th. Went through like the big events of music and the top 10 best-selling albums and the Grammy nominated albums and all that. If anybody saw that yesterday, going through that. And I guess my question to you guys is, of course, obviously, what do you think about the year of 1967 in music? But also, I wanted to ask, along with that question, if you have any thoughts on the fact that this was like the first year that the best-selling album also won Grammy Album of the Year. I think that's the first time this happened so far. And that was Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band by the Beatles. First time that's happened where it's like definitely the album that everybody loved wins the Grammy finally, and also the first time a rock and roll album wins Grammy Album of the Year. And I guess if you guys have any thoughts on that and the significance of that event, anyways, I'll go with you, Bryer, first, or what, Nick? Did you?
Oh yeah, I was gonna make a joke, but I'll let Brian go first.
Well, I gotta hear the joke now.
Well, just like the Chiefs, Frank Sinatra couldn't repeat.
Oh man, can I?
You're gonna hear it from me, Jay-Z. You're gonna hear it from me. I'm a visual Jets fan, so whatever you say about the Jets, I'll be like, okay. So I could pick on your Chiefs for a little bit.
Is there a way to kick guests out of here? Is that... Can I just go?
All right, sports jokes, funny.
Sports jokes.
All right. Any case, moving on. So I'll start with this. So of course, like I said, I always like to say how many albums I have in each year. 65 we'll say. Well, I'm not going to say for every year, but because I'm still new to this series, I'll be doing it. But 65, I had like 15 albums in 65. 66, I had 26. And then for this year, who has a guess how many this time?
I'm going to guess like 39.
I was going to say 30.
42.
42. Wow.
Right. So obviously, at this point, there's a dramatic spike in albums I own in a certain year, and you're going to see it continue to spike up as we go. And yeah, I mean, 67 is kind of that. It is a pretty big year. I mean, you have a lot of you have psychedelic rock pretty much in full swing at this point. You know, the hippie movement is also in full swing, and a lot of the music's reflecting on it. You know, just taking many different influences, many new bands and artists that are coming in and just really shaking things up. So I think it's a pretty important year of music. A lot of iconic albums came out this time, and there's some really great stuff that came out this year. Um, and yeah, overall, I think there's a lot of great stuff, and then pretty much majority of what I own is really good. Like I will say there's a couple albums I own from '67 that are not that good, but the majority of what I own are very top notch. And I did have a ton of honorable mentions, but I'm not gonna say them all. But really, there's not a ton that I did not like. Um, to my thoughts on the Beatles and Grammy thing, and I did watch your video yesterday, and I do agree that it is a pretty significant moment, even though even though personally I don't give a crap about the Grammys,
So you probably said I don't care. That's your opinion.
but it is pretty significant for the fact
it's
that
the big award show, so I don't
yeah,
know.
right. But in terms of an award show like that, it was a pretty big moment because I've been keeping up with the whole series and how the album that usually wins are pretty or traditional type of singers, your Sinatras, your Barbra Streisands, Judy Garland. The first time a very, very popular band won Best Album does show a shift in what the Grammys are looking for. Like they're starting to look more into what the young people are looking into, and starting to put a little bit more respect on it. Because again, years prior they completely shunned it, like completely. But yeah, and yes, this was it was a big moment, so I will give it that. Again, don't care much the Grammys, but I will give it. It was a pretty good choice on them to give the Beatles some cred for once, especially during this period, which is to many people is their like pretty much their peak period, if you want to say. But yeah, that's all I gotta say for that.
All right, what do you think, Nick?
uh,
Anything to add?
jokes aside, I'm very I all love, by the way, Jason. I was actually rooting for his Chiefs because I hate Tom Brady so much that I would rather have Mahomes get the three-peat and Tom not. But on to 67 though, I thought this was a very good year of music, arguably the best year of music in my opinion. But I mean, this mid to late 60s period, I think all three of us could agree, or at least me and Jason could agree, is the upper echelon of music. I know for a fact all three of us could agree it's the best part of the 60s. No doubt. I mean, if Brier's going to tell me, nah, Nick, 63 was the best year of the 60s, I'd be like, I'll respect your
not
opinion.
Not that crazy.
I'll
say crazy stuff. I don't go that far.
I'd be like, I'll respect your opinion, but I'm gonna have to disagree with you on that. But to me, there's just so many great albums that came out this year that I have like a ton of honorable mentions. Like I have so many.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to ask you guys to brace yourself when we get to the honorable mentions portion of it. But even my least favorite album of this year, it's still good. I still think my least favorite album of this year is good. I know there's gonna be some people who are gonna be sad by my least favorite album of this year, but yeah, I just think this is a very high quality period of music. I know most people aren't into the 60s. Most people who listen to classic rock is more into the 70s, like Scott, for example. But to me, this just has everything that I love in music. Psychedelia, folk music, Baroque pop. There's just so much going on this year, and I'm very excited to share my top 10 albums of this year.
Yeah, so Juan Soto does sound like Han Solo, I guess, is what he was getting at. I thought it was a Solo thing because it sounded like you're saying Chewie.
No. Han Solo Han Solo if he's from the Dominican Republic.
Yeah, it's a Dominican Republic Han Solo.
Not that far away.
Yeah.
It's not in the galaxy.
I was high on your 66 list. Did Nick have it?
I didn't have it on my list.
I think Nick could be.
It was close. No. Maybe if I made the list again, it would be on there, but I wasn't. Yeah, I didn't have Sinatra in mind when I made the list originally.
I can't remember. I was thinking Nick would be the one to have Sinatra in there. I don't think Bryer even would have it.
I mean, I
I
had
only
an album mention.
Yeah,
is
the only Sinatra album I had in the '60s was the very early '60s when I wasn't really having any options.
yeah, that's true. And Scott makes some good points here. You have to remember that at this time, rock music was seen as a fad and just kids' music. I agree. That's what was going on. I think the adults were buying. I mean, they were buying, yeah, the Sinatras and the Dean Martins and the Bing Crosbys and the crooner music, whatever. And they were buying soundtracks to musical because those do very well. Every year that I've been looking at the top 10 best-selling albums, there's always a musical, some kind of a Broadway or a musical or a movie soundtrack that gets in there. I think that's my sense of the older group, the older people. Uh, they're, I suppose, I don't know, yeah, they're buying like classical music, probably stuff. I don't know, instrumental stuff. And it was the kids though. Yeah, they were playing the Elvis, they're playing the Beatles, they're playing all this stuff. And yeah, I'm sure at the time it was like, oh, that's just the kids will grow out of it or something. And it's not real music. I'm sure was what the parents were thinking. Just like what my parents said about my music and what I say about other kids' music today. I'm like, that's not music. The music of my day, that's music. That's what we all think. As we get older. But yeah, so I agree with that. Somebody said to the Beatles that rock and roll music is on their way out, and they didn't sign the Beatles at like Decca Records or something. That's like, oh, you couldn't be more wrong. Rock and roll music is going to be here to stay.
As Freddie Mercury would say, "Oh, how wrong can you be?"
Yeah. Very, very wrong, especially at 60s anyway. So yeah, I think that's what was going on. Yeah, and he says the Beatles showed it was an art form. Yeah, the Beatles and the Beach Boys, you can throw in there, and I'm sure there's some other people you can throw in there. Yeah, definitely, Phil Spector or whatever, definitely was doing some really interesting stuff with rock music. And like I said, this is the year I feel like where it's like, okay, everybody's starting to agree that rock music is the main what I say mainstream, the music of the time now. I think with the Beatles winning album of the year, it seems like that signifies that rock and roll now kind of main popular music in a sense, I guess, if that makes sense. Um, and I think he's quoting a song from
Yeah, 4 Seasons. Late
Oh
December
the Night,
63.
December back in, yeah, good stuff.
63.
Okay, yeah, play along in the comments. Yeah, definitely. Because I think this is the first year that the Grammy Album of the Year is going to be in one of our top tens. It's going. I'll spoil it. It's going to be in at least one of our top tens albums of the year, and that's the first time it's happened on all of our lists. I think every year I go, all right, did this Grammy Album of the Year from Barbra Streisand or from Frank Sinatra or Judy Garland or no, they never make any of our top 10. So again, it's like finally the Grammys are getting on board with what is popular for the time. It's like they're late, but I guess better late than never that they finally put together an album that everybody likes. And anyway, but yeah, so thanks for your thoughts on that, and we'll get to our top 10 favorite albums of 1967. Starting with number 10. So you want to start us off, Bryer, with your 10th spot?
All right, cool. So now my number 10. So it's interesting because there was a time where I thought this was just going to barely miss out, even though I really enjoy this one. I think there was a part of me that didn't want to be in the top 10 because I like this artist a lot, but he's not really an artist I go to too often. But after more reevaluating, I decided, you know what? I think it is worth being in the top 10. It might be a little low for some, but it is in the top 10. And I'll reveal what was originally going to be number 10 in the honorable mentions. But anyway, number 10, it's going to be How You Experience, Jimi Hendrix Experience.
Yes, definitely.
Right. So, like I said, I don't listen to too much Jimi Hendrix as often as I should, but he is one of the great guitar players of all time. I mean, there's no denying that. It's just how much he revolutionized guitar playing, especially in terms of rock. And it's one thing I forgot when I re-listened to the album very recently. Is that it is pretty heavy for the time. Again, you
Yeah.
have a lot of heavy riffs on here. You again have Purple Haze that starts out the album, and pretty much a great introductory, just a iconic riff in itself on that one. And musicianship on here, of course, it's basically a power trio. Of course, you have Jimi Hendrix on guitar, you have Mitch Mitchell on drums, and Noel Redding on bass. And yeah, just the three of them just creating this massive sound, and just really good to hear. Other songs are worth noting. I really like Manic Depression. That's a nice little follow-up song on that. And then you have the other popular song, which was Hey Joe, another iconic one for him at this time. And then you have Foxy Lady. I know what it's like to be a foxy lady, as Nick would know. But any
I was confused for a second. I was like, wait a minute. What's going on here? I got you. I got you.
yeah, that fox head is right above me.
He dressed like a fox, people, if people don't know.
Yes, any
Watch-
Genesis
watch-
fans.
Watch my video on Foxtrot.
It's a Genesis reference. So
Yes,
If
but
you know,
yeah.
you know.
Now every time I listen to Fox Lady, I can't stop thinking of myself in that. But in any case, another great song as well too. Other great highlights are "May This Be Love," "I Don't Live Today," "The Wind Cries Mary" is great. "Fire," another good heavy song on that, and even "Are You Experienced" is a good closing song. So even the Foxes agreeing with me. I'm one with the Foxes. What can I say? But yeah, it is a really, really great album. Definitely one of the great debuts, of course. And yeah, it does need to be in the top 10. So there you go.
Okay.
well, be careful, because one of my viewers told me that I wasn't supposed to talk about Jimi Hendrix. So
I don't know. What do you think of a Mexican or Filipinos talking about it?
yeah, I wonder.
I
Does
wonder.
Yep.
Nick knows what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about. Unfortunately, my number 10 is going to be Pisces, Aquarius, Capricorn, and Jones by the Monkees. This was their third album released of that year.
3 albums and 3 in the top 12. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, not only did they release 3 albums in the same year, but all 3 of them were number 1 albums. Like, that's something for sure. To me, this is the best of the 67 albums, in my opinion.
Oh, really?
Whenever we do get to the Monkey series, the 3 of us, I'm going to be very highly of the other 2 67 albums. But to me, this is the one that I always go back to the most. Because it has that great Monkees pop sound, but with psychedelic music also. I'm sure Jason, you're more. I know you prefer more of the Monkees because
Yeah.
it's just that pop sound that you really enjoy.
Yeah.
But yeah, to me, this is their most ambitious album. Not, I wouldn't say their most ambitious. The next one, Birds, Bees, and the Monkeys, that's their most ambitious. But definitely the first album where they get psychedelic, and I really enjoy it. We open up the album with Salesman, which I'll admit it's a carbon copy of Taxman. It's them trying to do Taxman, and I mean, I love it personally because I love Taxman. Taxman's my favorite Beatles song, so I'm gonna have a little bit of bias there, but give me Taxman any day of the week. Obviously, Mike Nesmith does lead vocals. He opens the album, which is always interesting to me, or Neil Young if you want to be technical. If you know, you know. But you get She Hangs Out. After that, Davy Jones song. I think it's a fun song. She hangs out. She hangs out. Very, very fun song. Dorrington Next Summer to me is one of the most underrated songs that they made. It's another Mike Nesmith song, and it's like nice. It's like a nice pop song, and then Mickey Dolenz comes in with the backup vocals, and they harmonize really well. surprisingly well. Like they have such polarizing voices. I wouldn't think it would work, but they make it work somehow. Love is Only Sleeping. It's psychedelic, and to me, this is their I'm Only Sleeping, which again, give me the Beatle counterpart of that. I'm Only Sleeping is another fantastic song. Uh, Cuddly Toy, such a messed up song. It's one of the most messed up songs ever. It's like it's about a girl who gets used by all the guys, describing her as a cuddly toy. Super messed up. Super messed. It sounds so happy, like you have Davy Jones and Mickey Dolan singing la 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 la. It's like, meanwhile, it's like the most messed up lyrics you could possibly think of. But I love it. It's one of my favorite songs. It's arguably one of my favorite songs on the album because it's so happy sounding, but it's like so messed up. Words, another really good psychedelic song. You have Mickey Dolenz, but you have Peter Twerk doing a little bit of vocals on there too. Hard to Believe. It's good, not one of my favorites. To me, it sounds like I'm trying to think of the other Monkey song. It reminds me of Daydream Believer, but like a light version of that. And what's crazy is that was actually recorded for the album, but they never put it on it. Never got that. Then you get to the next song, What Am I Doing Hanging Round, which is like a country sounding song, and I love it. I think Mike Nesmith, he has like that Texas background on him, and he has like a bunch of like country influence. And I really love this song. To me, it's one of the best songs on the album. Then you get to Peter Percival Pedersen's Pet Pig Porky, which it's like a short interlude of Peter Tor going, Peter Percival Pedersen's pet pig named Porky loves pie. Loves pie for dinner. It's so stupid. It's like it's like 30 seconds of like stupidity, but it's
like the
short
monkeys.
enough. It's short enough where it's kind of like the Love and Spoonful, where they have like their antics, but the antics is like it's goofy enough where I could enjoy it. Thankfully, this is only 30 seconds long and not like any longer. And that goes right into Pleasant Valley Sunday, which
great song.
Super iconic, and it's really, really fun. Daily Nightly. Ooh. This is like one of my absolute favorite songs from the Monkees. It was written by Mike Nesmith, but Mickey Dolenz sung it. One of the very first uses of a synthesizer. My brain wasn't braining. It was the early usage of the synthesizer, and Mickey Dolenz told a story at one of his concerts as to how they used it. It was like, we didn't know how to use it. We were just messing around with it, and it just came up with a bunch of sounds, and that's how they made the track. And yeah, I think it's one of the best songs on the album. It's super ahead of its time. It's super. It doesn't sound like a Monkees track. It's super. It sounds like something that the Beatles would do. And to me, it's the best song on the album just because of how innovative it is. I mean, this was before the Doors did it. This was before the Beatles did it. They were one of, if not the first popular bands to use a synthesizer. And that never gets brought up.
Never gets brought up, yeah.
Which is crazy to me. I mean, we all know the Monkees get disrespected, not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They get disrespected all the time, so I'm not surprised.
Yeah, definitely.
Here's a song I know Bryer really liked, because I remember Bryer like, I really like this song. Don't Call on Me. I love that song. That's a dark horse song. It's super underrated. I mean, after that craziness of Daily Nightly, it's like, how do you follow that up? And then Don't Call on Me, such a beautiful song. I have no idea what my favorite song on this album is. It's either Daily Nightly or Don't Call on Me. I'd say probably Don't Call on Me because of how nice it is. I think it closes out on Star Collector, which it's an antique Davy Jones track, but I really enjoy it. And yeah, to me, this is a very underrated album. I think so many other people need to check this album out. if you like psychedelic music, like Beatlesque psychedelic music, this is for you. I'm a big fan of this album. That's my number 10.
All right. Scott gives his 10, which is The Byrds, Younger Than Yesterday. And favorite song, My Back Pages, which I will agree 100% that is the best song on the album and a top 5 favorite Bird song for me. Love their version of My Back Pages. I would even say that's a top 5 Bob Dylan song for me as well. I love his version too, of the No Side of Bob Dylan. And I'm not as big on this album. You two are bigger on Younger Than Yesterday than me, I know, and Scott is. So I know it's like your guys' favorite album from them. I don't know if that's the same for Scott or not, but yeah, I don't have it on my list, but maybe someone else will. For me, number 10, I'm going with Happy Together by the Turtles. Yeah, the Turtles make the list, and I'm so happy. This was a great discovery for me because I only knew the song Happy Together. That's the Turtle song I heard all grown up, and we all know that's like this one of the biggest songs from this period. That was, at least for me, growing up listening to oldie station, that song was on all the time, and I absolutely love Happy Together. It's one of my favorite songs of this year and of the '60s period. And the overall, I really like the overall sound of the album, and the Turtles sound great. And I would say they're part of the folk rock period kind of groups, American groups that came out. I would say they kind of remind me of like the Monkees or the Hollies or the Association. Kind of, they do definitely the sunshine pop style of music, I think, and they do actually very well, I think, on this album. Because I've listened to the other albums, and none of the other albums are near as good as this one to me, and which is good because it has the huge hit song, which is no surprise my favorite song on the album is Happy Together. It's the ultimate sunshine pop song, super catchy, that chorus, love it. But yeah, a lot of good stuff here. Making My Mind Up is great. Think I'll Run Away, She'd Rather Be With Me, Too Young to Be One, Person Without a Care, She's My Girl, and Is It Any Wonder? All, I mean, there's just so many great, just super catchy kind of rock pop songs that really worked for me. And so I really enjoyed getting to discover this album for this list, which is why I like doing these lists to discover new music. And yeah, I think it's to me, it's the only one I would recommend from the Turtles. Maybe someone else would disagree, but to me, this is definitely the one to check out if you want to check out the Turtles. Is this Happy Together? All right, now to number 9 with you. Number 9 with Bryer.
Yeah. All right. Well, looks like me and Scott agree have one agreement. Number
Oh,
9, The Byrds, Younger
wow.
Than Yesterday.
It might be on the list, and here it is.
Yep. Yeah. It's either this or the next album. It's either my favorite. They always kind of flip flop from time to time. But it's one of my favorite Byrds albums. I mean, I do love their the folk rock period too. But I don't know, there's something about this one that kind of I gravitate to a bit more. Again, maybe it's the added psychedelia influence and a lot of other elements incorporated, which I like. But you have great songs. It starts out with "So You Want to Be a Rock and Roll Star," which is a somewhat diss on the Monkees almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the whole thing. But it's a great song. Nice opening song. But then you get to the second song. It's one of my favorite Byrds songs, and that's the Chris Hillman pen song, Have You Seen Her Face? I've always loved that one. I mean, I've said this before. I always think Chris Hillman was kind of like the secret weapon of the band. He always came in with you don't really expect him to come in with great songs because he was the bass player. But yeah, he comes in and he just has these like really good hidden songs I don't really hear that many people talk about. But yeah, I love that song. Then you get CTA 102, which is kind of a polarizing song. I'm kind of in the middle. I don't hate it, but there's definitely elements that can get great because I know there's a lot of sound effects on that one. I think that was a David Crosby song, and yep, it showed. Oh, was it?
No, it actually
Oh, was it?
wasn't.
It wasn't. Who was it?
I forgot who, but the David Crosby song that most people don't like is the Mind Garden song.
Okay. It sounds like something he would write. Anyway,
Fair
any
enough.
case, yeah. Um, but then he brings up that with a Renaissance Fair. I like that one quite a bit. Time Between, Everybody's been burned. It's a nice one. Thoughts and Words is great too. Yeah, Mind Gardens. Yeah, okay, written by Roger McGuinn is involved in that one. Okay, thank you. But yeah,
You're
Mind
welcome.
Gardens. That's the Crosby song. Yeah, I'm not that huge on it, but it's kind of interesting for what it is. It's Crosby being Crosby. What more do you expect? Um, but then you have, yeah, I agree. My Back Pages, their version of it. Yeah, it's definitely my favorite song on here. And yeah, I do prefer their version over the Bob Dylan version, even though Bob's is pretty good too. But I don't know, the added folk rock element of it just really elevates it. And just like the vocal harmony on that one too. Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite Bird songs as well. Then you have the girl with no name, solid, which is a short song, so it's not too much to say about it. But then it has a very solid closing with Why, which is luckily it's not a joke song, which they tend to do sometimes. Um, but overall, it's a very, very strong album. It's definitely a very good one.
Okay. So my number 9 is gonna be. I mean, ever since we got to 62, I've had at least one Beach Boy album each year
Yeah.
from 62 now, and that trend is gonna keep going on because I have another Beach Boy record. That's gonna be 1967's Wild Honey.
All time.
Yeah, this is my favorite of the two 67 Beach Boy albums. Of course, you have the Smiley Smile album, which I know for a fact no one but me really enjoys. It's a very polarizing Beach Boy album for Beach Boy fans because of the what could have been Smile, and two because of its weird nature. Me personally, I really enjoy Smiley Smile, but it didn't make my list. Uh, like I said, this is my favorite of the two albums. So, what makes this album so good for me is that there's psychedelia in it, but like it's like lo-fi. It's like chill. It's like psychedelic. Uh, Sucks, even though it has my favorite Beach Boy song on it. Yeah, I know Scott is very passionate on hating that album. Don't worry, Scott. I know.
But it has a really good song on it. It looks like.
Good Vibrations,
Oh, Good Vibrations, of course. Yeah, great song.
but it's like it's like a very chill album, a little bit of psychedelic nature in it. But one added thing that they added to this period, this album, is that there's a lot of R&B influence on here, and you get a big uplift of Carl Wilson. Like Carl Wilson, he was very unnoticeable in the very early period of the Beach Boys. He really stepped it up on this album. He really did, and really outdid himself on this album. Yep, those are the two songs. On Smiley Smile. Anyways, back to my review. Wild Honey, awesome R&B opener. Carl Wilson literally eating up the vocals. It's such a great song. Uh, Wild Honey. Such a roaring song. Then you follow that up with a chill song, Aren't You Glad? You got Mike Love on lead vocals. It's a chill song. Like it's not psychedelic or soulful. It's just chill. It's just like after that crazy album opener of Wild Honey, it's just like, hey man, welcome to the album. Come here and chill with us kind of vibe. And then it goes right into their cover of I Was Made to Love Her. When I tell you this, I think Carl Wilson outsold Stevie Wonder on this song. I really think so. I think
Hmm.
Carl's version of I Was Made to Love Her
Huh.
is infinite times better than Stevie Wonder's version. I love Stevie Wonder. He's my
Right.
favorite soul
Yeah.
singer, and he in my opinion, he's the king of soul, but not on this song. I think Carl Wilson outdoes him on here. And then again, it's like we're comparing younger Stevie Wonder to, an older Carl Wilson. So it's kind of hard to compare because once we get to the 70s, Stevie Wonder goes on a new level of amazingness. So I feel like if Stevie Wonder would have redid I Was Made to Love Her, it would have been different. Then we get to Country Air, which it's a song that I didn't care for a very long time. But then Cramser on Tastes Like Music said it was one of his favorite Beach Boy songs. I'm like, really? And I kept listening to it. I'm like, you know what? I'm starting to get it now. I really like this song. It's psychedelic. It's low. It's like that. It's like a chill psychedelic song with great harmonies. I really like that song. Thing or Two, another really good song. Uh, Carl Wilson again on the vocals going crazy. Uh, Darling. Oh my God. Darling. I I think Darling's one of the best underrated songs of their discography. Darling is such an amazing song. Carl Wilson, again, he really, really stepped it up a notch on this album. And this is the biggest indicator of him stepping up. Like, when you think Carl Wilson, of course you think take two. Good Vibrations and God only knows, but I feel like he was really stepping it back on the vocals. This is like this is Carl Wilson. To me, this is what Carl Wilson sounds like. And I mean, arguably God Only Knows is better than this song, but in terms of vocals, I think Carl Wilson is at his peak on the song. I don't think he ever sings quite as well in their discography before this or after this. I'd love Just Wants to See You. Kind of a goofy song. You got Brian Wilson on vocals. It's a fun, catchy song. And then at the end, he's like, I love just wants to see you. I'd love just wants to see you in the nude. It's like, all right.
All right.
pretty stupid, but Brian Wilson, I thought it was pretty funny. Then you get Here Comes the Night. And when I tell you for the longest time, I thought Carl Wilson was doing the vocals on this, I won't tell you how long I thought that. It was Brian Wilson who does the soulful vocals on this one. Yes, Brian Wilson doing soulful vocals. That is unheard of for him. He doesn't do it before that, and he doesn't do it after that. It's like the only time in their discography he does that. And I really enjoy it. It just has like such a great groove to it. It's a fun song. And of course, me, Bryer, and Scott, all three of us know the very infamous 10-minute disco version of this song. Of course, you can't. Once you hear it, you can't forget it. Once Jason hears it, he will never forget. Oh boy, here comes the night. Let the Wind Blow, another kind of just chill psychedelic song. How She Boogled It. I know Cramser and I know everyone on Tastes Like Music hates that song. I actually really enjoy it. It is very out of place. It's a very out of place song because the rest of the album has like an either chill psychedelic feel or R&B soulful vibe. This has none of those two. It's just How She Boogled It. It's like its own thing, and I really enjoy it. It's a goofy, antic song, but I really enjoy it. I can close out the album with Mama Says, which is them going, eat a lot, sleep a lot, rush up like crazy. It's dumb, it's stupid, I know. But then again, you're talking to the same guy who thinks Kate Bush is awesome. So take my opinions with the tiniest grain of salt, because I like some antic music sometimes. So at the end of the day, I think this is a really underrated album. I think this album still doesn't get the credit it deserves. I mean, this is the first album of like a band who stripped back from the psychedelic feel, like the heaviness of the psychedelic music. I mean, like Sgt. Pepper's, Our Experience. I mean, that was going on, and the Beach Boys were having none of it. And I mean, after that, everyone would strip it back, but the Beach Boys were stripping things back before the Beatles did with the White Album and all that. So this was a really good album. I don't know who to recommend this album to. Like, if you like the stuff that I was describing, check it out. But
Because
I feel
this isn't your typical Beach Boys album, I would say, right?
not even not. I mean, I'd say Smiley Smile, Wild Honey, and Friends is like this weird lo-fi strip back period of the Beach Boys that not
Yeah.
many people enjoy. I really enjoy it. To me, this is not even my favorite of the lo-fi strip back Beach Boys. To me, Friends clears. I think Friends might be my favorite Beach Boy album. I really like Friends. That's gonna appear on my 68 list when we get to that list. But to me, I really enjoy this period because it's interesting to hear a band go way stripped back compared to the Beatles and the Who and Jimi Hendrix, Cream, and all that. So all that spieling, at the end of the day, I really enjoy this album, and I recommend people listen to it. And it's not an album for everyone, but it's definitely, if you're a Beach Boy fan, like the three of us, it's definitely an album I recommend. Just to hear how they were in '67. But
Mhm.
that'll be it for my number 9.
Beach Boys are definitely it's like before Pet Sounds and after Pet Sounds. Seems like two periods of their discography.
That sounds like its own thing.
Yeah, exactly. Scott has from Cream, Disraeli Gears, favorite song, Sunshine of Your Love. And of course, Nick and Bryer, they covered all the Cream albums, I believe, on Nick's channel.
Thank
And
you for the shout.
I'm sure you guys are a huge fan of this album as well. I'm not as big on Cream, but I love Sunshine of Your Love. That's one of the greatest rock songs. Uh, some of the greatest guitar playing and drumming, and oh my gosh, I can listen to that song over and over. All right, my number 9, I'm going to go with another Hollies album, and this is Butterfly, coming out this year. Really like the Hollies sound. They're another band, just man, coming out of British Invasion, but they have such great harmonies and great melodies, and they kind of write great, again, more poppier type songs. And this was a cool album because it kind of combined, believe this, it combined psychedelic rock with Baroque pop. And somehow that combination really worked for me on the album. And I think this has been my favorite Hollies album that I've listened to so far from them. And I had For Certain Because on my list last year, on the 66 year. And so 2 years in a row, I got the Hollies coming in again, which is nice to see. But yeah, I really love the sound of this album. I really think this is a good Graham Nash album. I think he's sounding really good here. Because previous albums, I feel like I don't hear Nash as much as I hear the other lead singer, and I'm forgetting his name, but Clark. But Nash is really, I think, growing as a songwriter and singer at this time. And we got some good stuff here, including my favorite song on the album, Dear Eloise. Man, that is a good song. One of my favorite Holly songs. Love how it starts with that Baroque kind of classical sound at the beginning with just Nash singing. And then it kind of goes off into this almost like kind of psychedelic sound to it. But then it cuts away, and then the rest of the band come in, and you get this really nice, catchy pop tune. And it goes back to the Baroque stuff. I don't know, it's so cool, the song. It's still very catchy and all that. It seems like a little experimental for the band. But besides that, some great stuff. Pegasus, another really good song on here. Just really good, catchy pop rock music for me. Way, 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 I thought was great. Would You Believe? Postcard and Charlie and Fred are just some of them. There's some other ones I liked, but those are the ones I was able to fit in writing them down anyways. But overall, just a really solid album. One of their best albums, my favorite album so far. So definitely, yeah, I always, because we've been covering the Hollies as well on Nick's channel, I think. And I'd say the earlier couple albums definitely were weaker, but then it's like they caught their stride. Definitely For Certain Because. I think even the album before that, they kind of started catching I think it was, they started catching their stride, I think, as a band. And I think you're really seeing it here before Nash will leave the band. And so the band dynamics will change. But so this is like the best period when Nash was still with the band, in my opinion. So far, I haven't heard their later albums, so far, in my opinion, this is definitely one to check out if you want to check out the Hollies. I think is Butterfly. I know Nick will agree with me on that. I know it's one of his favorite. Anyway, so that's my number 9. So now we go to number 8. Back to Bryer.
Okay, so I'll make this next one kind of quick because Nick already talked about this one. And that album is The Monkees, Pisces, Aquarius, Capricorn, and Jones Limited. Yeah, I'll probably say this. As of now, I think this is currently my favorite Monkees album.
Okay.
Yeah, the albums prior to this one, there's the debut, then you have More of the Monkees and Headquarters. There's like maybe at least 2 songs I don't really care for. This one is only just one. And you can figure out which the one I don't care for. But I just think you have a nice blend of some of the most well-known songs, and you have some really, really good deep cuts on here. I'll go through it quickly, but of course you start with Salesman. That's a great opening song, kind of nice, good, kind of catchy number. Even with the Taxman comparisons, like I still enjoy it. A lot of times it doesn't even register. Sometimes that sounds like Taxman, but so there's that. She Hangs Out, another really great song. Doors into Summer. Love Is Only Sleeping, I really enjoy. Yeah, I like Cuddly Toys too, even though, yeah, it's kind of, yeah, like Nick said, it's pretty screwed up on what's being described, but it's catchy. So I can't really, it's always, I guess I don't condone it, but it's catchy. So I guess as long as I block out the lyrics, I'll be fine. But then you get Words. Hard to Believe is another nice one. And then you have another pretty big song with What Am I Doing Hanging Around. That's another really good Mike Nesmith song. Again, he bringing his country influence, and this is where the country really works. There's a bit of a pop edge to it, which helps a lot. I really like that one. Yeah, you probably already figured it out, but of course, the only song I don't care for is the Peter Tork one, that little 30-second thing. But again, like Nick said, it's only 30 seconds, so at least it's over quick. And it is, I mean, at the very least, it's amusing. It's not really annoying, it's kind of just amusing. But, it is what it is. But then you get another pretty big song with Pleasant Valley Sunday. And yeah, that's another classic Monkey song. Really, really love that one. Daily Nightly, another song I really liked. Again, it has the synthesizer use in it, but I think it's pretty cool. I really liked it. And yeah, Nick is right on the money. I love Don't Call on Me. That's definitely a top 5 Monkey song. Just this very kind of chill but very beautiful song sung by Mike. Definitely one of the most underrated songs in the discography, I think. Just love the atmosphere in that one, and just has a melancholic feel, which I love. Yeah, that's a very underrated song. And it closed off with Star Collector, which again uses the synthesizer yet again. I think it's another pretty fun, pretty cool, quirky way to close the album. But yeah, it's a very great album. I think to me, it's the more consistent album, pretty cohesive. I just think it has some, like I said, good blend of both hits and deep cuts. So that's going to be number 8.
I'm glad someone else also represented that album.
I'm the only one that doesn't have it on my list.
Don't worry. My number 8, I have this band made 2 albums in the same year as well as the Beach Boys. That's going to be Jefferson Airplane. My number 8 being After Bathing at Baxter's.
Oh, really? Wow.
I have at least one of 2 of their albums on my list. Whether Surrealistic Pillow makes it or not, we'll find out. But to me, After Bathing at Baxter's is like the aftermath of Surrealistic Pillow, because Surrealistic Pillow is what brought them into the mainstream with songs like White Rabbit and Somebody to Love. Those 2 songs skyrocketed them along with the album. And with all that money they had, well, they were able to get a lot more drugs with that. And a lot of drugs were made in the making of this album. If you've heard this album, you'll agree, and you'll be like, yeah, that sounds about right. Not only that, but this was a self-produced album. The idea of the album was to emulate the sound of being live. They wanted to sound like they were live, like how their live shows sounded like. And well, I think it worked. I personally really liked it. But this is not for the faintest of hearts. This is not if you're not crazy about psychedelic music, stay
Yeah.
far away from this album. Stay far away from it. This is not an album that I recommend going anywhere near. The album opens up with the ballad of You and Me and Poniel, and you open up with guitar feedback, and right away it's like you're not in for Surrealistic Pillow 2. It's like a completely different sound that they went for on the last one, and I really enjoy it. It's like a psychedelic groove that I really really enjoyed. Yeah, it's really cool, and then it goes into like a minute and a half of just absolute madness. A small package of value will come to you shortly. This is their Revolution 9. This is their Revolution 9. It's just them throwing sounds at the wall. And supposedly this was on the album to give one of their bandmates writing credits so that they could also get money. And yeah, I could see where this wouldn't get the appeal, but to me there's not too much of it where I could hate it too much. I mean, granted, it's not a track that I go back to on its own, but it's madness. It's pure madness, and I know for a fact Jason does not like that track in particular. I know once Jason gets reminded of it, he'll be like, "What is this?"
I tried listening to that album. It was hard.
Yep. And then you follow that up with Young Girl Sunday Blues, which, fun fact, this was not even recorded in the studio. This was actually a live recording. So, and I really like it. This is the only song on the album where Marty Balin actually got, not only did he wrote, but he actually did lead vocals on. This is the only song on the album where he did that. And it's interesting because the last album, Surrealistic Pillow, he had a lot of lead vocals. So to have like an album where he had like majority of the lead vocal staff, like only like 2, I think, 1 or 2. So that's interesting. Then that's followed up by Martha, and I'd say of the songs on this album, I'd say this is definitely the most approachable. It's not psychedelic, it's not weird. It's not a song that I see people liking though still, but it's definitely the most approachable of the 11 songs on this album. Having that said, it's my favorite song on the album. It's a poetically good song. I really like the lyrics on here. Forgetting the name of the band member, but he does lead vocals, and he's a underrated lead vocalist, in my opinion. I'm gonna look up the name of the member who sang it, but to me, it's a really underrated song. Should have been a bigger hit. It was released as a single, but went nowhere because even though it was technically the most approachable song on the album, compared to the other 2 songs that became huge hits, it's definitely not nearly as poppy sounding. Can't nurse the name of the person I was talking about. And yeah, another really good song. I like my favorite part of the song is at the end where all the music cuts out and it's just him singing in green sun on blue earth under warm running shower. It's just such a cool way to end off the song. And that follows that up with Wild Time. And yeah, it's another really good song. I don't know what to describe the sound, but it's like it reminds me of Strawberry Alarm Clock. It just has that such a cool vibe to it that I really enjoy. And uh yeah, I really enjoyed it. Then you get The Last Will of the Castle, which was another song that was not sung or written by Marty or Grace Slick. It was Jorma Korkonen. Cannot pronounce the name, but he's their guitarist, and he gets a song in the album, and I really like it. Another great song, Rejoice, Grace Slick. Ooh, Grace Slick really outdoes herself on this song. I'll always say Grace Slick is always an MVP on the any song that she sings. She's always doing a good job. There's not a single Grace Slick song I don't like from her. It's kind of like McVie on Fleetwood Mac. It's like you can never go wrong with McVie on Fleetwood Mac. For me, you can never go wrong with Grace Slick on Jefferson Airplane. Then you open up side 2 with Watch Your Ride, which I think is another awesome song, more psychedelic song. Then you get Spare Change. It's like 9 minutes. It's like it's hard to describe, but long story short, not something that Jason would absolutely hate. It's just want to put that. That's a good way of putting it. Then you follow up with Two Heads with Grace Slick yet again, killing it. Another awesome song. Then you close out the album with the Won't You Try / Saturday Afternoon, which I think is a really great way to close out the album. And again, just a recap. This is a very interesting album. It's a very interesting album. It's an album that took me a very long time to get into. It's their weirdest album. I'll put it that way. It's their weirdest, most bizarre album. And if you're a big fan of Surrealistic Pillow and you expect another Surrealistic Pillow with this album, be prepared for the biggest disappointment, because this is not gonna sound anywhere near like that album. Even the next album, Crown of Creation, even though that album's psychedelic, I feel like this is the most psychedelic they get. It's balls to the walls. Again, it's not for the faintest of hearts. Don't go into this expecting not much. Expect a lot, and it's gonna be a lot to digest. My rule is listen to the album a bunch of times. If you still don't like it, then don't ever listen to it again. But for me, this was an album that is intriguing to me because it's just so weird. It's so psychedelic. It's so avant-garde. It's so 360 from the last album. It's so, I know I said this already, but you listen to Surrealistic Pillow, you're like, wow, how are they gonna follow that album with? And then you get that album, and it's like, wow. It's just like, it's even me, who's a fan of the album, I'm like, wow. It's like, it's interesting. It's an interesting album. Yeah, I know I'm not going to make a lot of friends putting that in my top 10, but I really enjoy it.
Interesting choice for sure. I wasn't expecting that. I know you're a fan of the Jefferson Airplane.
Oh yeah, I had their debut on my list, and I had I have this album on here. So far, Jefferson Airplane's doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if anybody else has covered them besides you. Obviously, Surrealistic Pillow is the big album that everybody will know about. See, Scott says, "Have you ever loved somebody's amazing rock song?" I think is that off the Butterfly album?
No, that's on the Evolution album.
Evolution, okay, Evolution, yeah, yeah. Holly's had 2 albums come out this year: Butterfly and Evolution. Evolution is the only Holly's album Scott has on record.
And he has the US version.
Do you have Metallica or Linkin Park in your thumbnail, Bryer?
You can look closely. It's a little bit. You can see it.
I never noticed what's on your thumbnail.
It was actually from a video thumbnail. I forgot which video it was, but it's somewhere.
And Scott's number 8 is the Moody Blues' Days of Future Past.
Yeah, that was one I considered.
I was gonna say, I know Bryer.
It didn't quite make it, but it's definitely an honorable mention.
Yeah, because I know Bryer. He was one who put it on our essential albums list.
I know. Ironic, isn't
it? And I listened to the album. I don't know. I wasn't a fan of it. It was a little strange. It was every song I think had to do with a morning or night.
Yeah. Just chronicling a whole day.
Yeah, a whole day. So it wasn't bluesy, I don't think. It was just like this.
No, it wasn't bluesy at all. That much.
Obviously, Nights in White Satin's the big song. Yeah. I actually liked another song on there. I think it was Morning or something like that I liked on there. I can't remember, but yeah. All right. So my number 8 is I'm glad I got a Motown album finally on my list, and this is Reach Out by the Four Tops. Made it into my list. And man, every year I'm always thinking, when I put my list together, I have all these Motown albums that I'm thinking, I mean, I do. Motown makes it like before 65, but then once you get 65, there's just so much great music coming out with the British Invasion and the folk rock that they take my list, and I don't. Unfortunately, the Temptations and the Supremes kind of are left, and the Four Tops are kind of left behind. Unfortunately, when it comes to this period, but so I'm glad I got a Four Tops album on here, and this is a really good Four Tops album. And I would say this is probably my favorite Motown album, maybe so far. It's hard to say. Temptations, Seeing Smokey is a really good album as well, and the Supremes has a really good one. You know, and you got Smokey Robinson and the Miracles and all that. But man, this is definitely an album to check out if you want to check out the Four Tops. Obviously, the title song "Reach Out" is a great song. It's one of their best songs. One of my favorite Four Top songs on here. Also, Bernadette. I think that's I don't. Most of the songs on here are covers. There's a couple I think that are somewhat original, the Four Tops, and I think Bernadette's one. Bernadette's a great song, and that's a song I didn't remember until I was hearing it. And I was like, oh yeah, I've heard this before. It was a radio hit as well. But Bernadette, great song from them. But you get a lot of really, I think, good cover songs on here, including Walk Away, Renee. I love that song. It's one of my favorite songs from this period. And it actually came out this year. The original came out this year from the Left Bank. So I don't know how they covered this so quickly. I was like, actually, they covered a couple albums that just came out this year. So I don't know if they wait till those albums came out and they're like, oh, we're covering it like right afterwards. They didn't even wait a year to cover these songs. But their Walk Away Nay I thought was pretty good. I mean, the Left Bank is going to be my favorite, but I still think their harmonies and everything work really good. The sound overall. I like If I Were a Carpenter was great. They do two Monkey songs, Last Train to Clarksville and I'm a Believer, two really good Monkey songs on here. Last Train to Clarksville is on their first album. I'm Believer's on their second album that came out this year. Then they do Cherish, a great association song. I thought they sound pretty good on that as well. And I couldn't write every song, but there's so many good songs. I'll Turn to Stone I thought was great as well. And I know there's another song I liked, but I didn't have room to write down. But man, this is just a solid Four Tops album with a lot of great covers, I thought. And so, yeah, glad to get a Four Tops album on my list finally. And it came out here in '67 with all the psychedelic rock. Yeah, Four Tops still made it, so that's kind of cool. So that's my number 8. So now we're going to number 7. Back to Bryer.
All right. So this is this is the first time this band's being mentioned so far. This band released 2 albums in '67, and they released their debut and they released their second album in the same year. And right here, I'm talking about their second album, and that album is going to be from, the band, I should say, is By the Doors.
Yeah,
and we got Strange Days.
Strange Days.
Right. So this, like I said, it's their second album, and the Doors are usually lumped into psychedelic rock a lot of the times, but I'd say this is by far even more psychedelic than their debut. Like they really lean a bit more on the psychedelic rock on this particular album. and yeah, like the first song, you have "Strange Days," and that pretty much sets the tone right off the gate because it has this very trippy, very hypnotic sort of atmosphere they're going
Yeah.
with it. And Jim Morrison has this kind of effect on the vocals, kind of making it even more out there. But I think
Use
it's
the
very cool. Yeah. Sorry.
use the synthesizer.
Yeah. Those
Yeah.
like
Another real use of the synthesizer.
right. But it's really cool. Really nice way to open the album. Your Lost Little Girl, kind of a very kind of moody sort of track. But again, I like moody stuff, so yeah, I like that one quite a bit. But even though this album is way more psychedelic, you still have some like singles coming off this album. Of course, you have "Love Me Two Times," which is pretty notable song for them at this time. Um, that's a good catchy one. Got a good catchy guitar riff from Roddy
Yeah.
Krieger, which is great. Unhappy Girl, kind of the more faster paced songs on here. Ironically, it's called Unhappy Girl, so you don't expect it to be kind of more upbeat, but I still enjoy it. I'd say the only thing I'm not too crazy for is the track Horse Latitudes, which is basically Jim doing his weird drugged out monologue thing. And so that's something, but still, it's very short. It's only a minute and a half, so it doesn't overstay too long. But it's amusing. I'll give it that. You have Moonlight Drive, another really nice song. Of course, that's basically the song Jim sung to Ray Manzarek when they were on the beach, and that was basically the start of the Doors right there, which is kind of nice. Then you have another pretty big song, which is "People Are Strange." Another one of my favorite songs there. Getting another pretty cool mood that they're going for. You have Eyes. My Eyes Have Seen You. It was really nice, really good. I Can't See Your Face in My Mind. I like a lot. And then, of course, you close out with the 11-minute track, When the Music's Over. And, you know, in the on their first album, they close out with The End, which is another long track.
Yeah.
You can argue that When the Music's Over is even more chaotic than The End, because it definitely goes in much more different directions and just way more out there. But I love it. That's another highlight for me. I've always dug a lot of when the Doors do like those like longer epics, if you will. Usually sticks with you by the end. But yeah, it's a really strong follow up to the debut. Of course, we'll talk more of the debut later, but yeah, this is still really good.
Yeah. This is the first Doors, so yeah.
So my number 7 is going to be Buffalo Springfield again.
Again.
No, not that I'm putting them on the list again. It's the name of the album. So, as you would know, on my 66 list, they were really, really high on my list. They were like, I believe they were in my top 5. Barely missed my top 5 now. But to me, this was another amazing Buffalo Springfield album. I mean, of course, go check out the series on my channel with me, Bryer, and Jason. Arguably one of my favorite series I've ever been a part of, and that was only 3 episodes. It's one of those short but sweet series. In my opinion, my favorite album review was the Buffalo Springfield review, the debut album, and yeah, to me, I don't know, the chemistry on that video was unmatched. I don't think another video on my channel will ever match that first Buffalo Springfield review. But we opened the album up with Mr. Soul. You get Mike Nesbitt. I mean Neil Young opening.
There's a lot. The Monkeys and Buffalo Springfield on this video.
Yeah. So yeah, we open up with Mr. Soul, and it's a heavy rock song. It's heavy, really heavy. I mean, you listen to the Neil Young songs on the last album. They were chill, nice, easy. We open up with a rocker, and it was him. It was Neil Young who did it. And yeah, I thought it was an amazing album opener. Then you have Child Claim to Fame, Richard Fiore's first written song in the band. Not the first time he would do lead vocals, but it's the first time he's written a song for an album. And it's really nice. I mean, to go from hard psychedelic rock song to nice, easy country song, the 360 on it, this album changes a lot. This is like, I'd say this is the Revolver in terms of how different the songs sound. This is their Revolver. And I mean that in the best way possible, too. Because, Revolver, what makes Revolver such a good album is because of how many times the album changes. Like, none of the songs on Revolver sound the same. Same goes for this album. None of the songs on this album sound the same. They had Everydays with the Stephen Stills. I'll admit, I think Stephen Stills is my least favorite songwriter in the band. Complete opposite when we get to Crosby, Stills, and Nash. I think he's the best songwriter on Crosby. It's weird. I feel like Stills improves when he goes to Crosby, Stills, and Nash. In my opinion, I'm sure you agree with me, Jason. But
okay, right. Yeah,
yeah, like Sweet Judy Blue Eyes, Helplessly Hoping.
yeah.
So many great songs, but I don't know. His writing just isn't quite up to par with Neil Young's, in my opinion, though.
Not on this album for sure. Yeah.
No. Expecting to Fly. Oh my gosh. This song is just expecting to fly.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I feel like I could fly with this song. Like,
yeah.
go on the Empire State Building and put the song on expecting to fly. But yeah, awesome song. I will say this, Bluebird is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Bluebird is awesome.
Good song.
I really love Bluebird. Bluebird is such an amazing song. I think that's definitely the most underrated rock song on the album. Hung Upside Down, not one of my favorites, but I still enjoy it. Sad Memory, what a beautiful song. What a very beautiful song. I love that song. Hot Take Alert, Good Time Boys, one of my favorite Buffalo Springfield songs.
Yeah.
You have the drummer singing it, and I like it. I enjoy it. Granted, I'm happy this is the only song he sings on. If he would have did it more, I would have been like, you're pushing it. You're really pushing it. But,
somebody worse to sing on the third album.
Don't remind me. Long story short, that album's not ending up on my 68.
No,
list.
it's not on my list.
But yeah, Rock and Roll Woman brings it back up to the rock aspect, and I really enjoy it. Broken Arrow, I have a very complicated relationship with that one because there's a lot of it that I really enjoy, but then it goes into like weird aspects of the song. I'm like, doesn't know what it wants to be, and it's half a really good song, but half like a really weird song. So I feel like if Neil Young would have cut some of it out, it would have been one of their best songs, in my opinion. My biggest issue is the live rendition of Mr. Soul. I feel like that's so pointless. Just like, why is that in here? I can name other problems I have with it, but this is in my top 10 album. This is in my top 10 albums of 67. I'm talking about the goods. I don't want to complain about it, but that's just my only complaint. Besides that, amazing Buffalo Springfield album. Last Time You'll See Him on my list because one, I'm not crazy about 68. Their 68 album, and two, they only have 3 albums. So
yeah. Neil Young famously just bolted after this album. As he likes sometimes just we used it as a what you call it? As a verb or adjective or something like that. You Neil Young'd it or something.
Yeah,
he's but yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, Scott says I like all of them better than Crosby, Stills, Nash. Yeah. I think so. I mean, it's funny, we're talking about all these bands that have members of Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. I mean, we've already talked about the Byrds, we talked about Buffalo Springfield, we talked about Holly's already, all three members are right now are with these bands that are all Hall of Fame bands, and then they're all gonna, combine together to make another Hall of Fame band, basically. Nash, I think, definitely he had some great stuff when he got with the Crosby, Stills, and Nash. And as you said, yeah, and Crosby, yeah, I'd agree. Crosby, I didn't know if he had that good of stuff with the Byrds, and he's my least favorite of the members, I would say, but he had some good stuff with Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. Young, it's hard because his solo career was also really good, so it's a mix of that. But Scott's number 7 is the debut of the Doors. So we got already talking about Strange Days, whatever, and now we got the Doors debut here.
And another thing, Scott found where I got my logo from.
He did.
Yeah, it was a video where I talked about debut albums.
Oh, okay.
Which makes sense because it is just debut albums on it. If you look at it again.
Okay. The Doors. This was a big year for the Doors because I didn't realize this when I did my top 10 best-selling albums. This was number 2 on the list, which I was surprised kind of. I guess I didn't know this was that popular of an album, but evidently did very well for 67. And then they had another album that came out too. So yeah, huge year for the Doors. And of course, we talked about psychedelic rock was so huge, and they kind of came in on that kind of psychedelic rock phase. And yeah, Light My Fire. Yeah, that's their biggest song, I would say. It's a song that got them banned from the Ed Sullivan Show, though, which I think is a funny story. All right, number 7 for me. Well, if you like talking about the Monkees, well, here's more of the Monkees. And this album is their second album, called More of the Monkees. This is definitely, to me, like the album that has the biggest hits on it. I thought this was a much better album than the first album. I remember I listened to the first album, I was kind of disappointed. I thought like Last Train to Clarksville is really good, but I felt like they didn't have anything else that was really that great. I thought in that first album. I don't know. This album, though, man, there's so many good songs. A lot of big hits on here as well as just even their not so well-known songs are really good. I mean, again, I really love this style of music, this very poppy, catchy songs, and the Monkees sound so good. Like, I was listening to this stuff and I was like, gosh, they're not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I know this album, like, they didn't write their own music. Famously, Neil Diamond wrote, I'm a Believer, I know, and I don't know who else wrote for them, but I know they had really good songwriters and they wrote some good songs for them. But man, give Monkees credit, man. They sound great, I think, on the songs. And I always thought David Jones was my favorite singer, but I'm starting to really like Mickey Dolenz as a singer too. I think he has a really good voice. And it's funny because they're both actors. They're not like professional musicians necessarily, but they both can sing. Obviously, they're actors that can sing, and both sound great on this album. I don't know about Nesmith and Peter Tork as much. I don't know their voices. If they sing, I probably can't pick them out. I can pick the other two out though. But yeah, so of course, like I said, this is my favorite Monkees song. I'm a Believer. It's another kind of like Happy Together. I just love the very upbeat, poppy, sunshine pop music. Man, is it so catchy that I'm a believer. I couldn't leave her if I tried. Great lyrics. Love the song. But there's a lot of good stuff. I'm Not Your Stepping Stone. Man, I love that song. That is definitely like one of my favorite Monkees songs. It is a cool rocker. Like, it's a good rock song. I'm Not Your Stepping Stone. And great vocals by, I think, Mickey Dolenz is singing this. And, oh, yeah, so catchy. Yeah, it's a great rock song. But I love songs like She, Mary, Mary, like Mary, Mary. Oh, so catchy. Which was, I think, a hit song for them. When Love Come Knocking Your Door, a really good song, kind of more of a deep cut on there. Hold On Girl, I thought was really good. Sometime in the Morning, another good one. But definitely got your big hits with I'm a Believer, I think, and Mary Mary, and Not Your Stepping Stone. Some songs I know I heard on the radio before. And then everything else is just really good, catchy rock music. And yeah, I really like this album. Really good discovery. I'm glad I wasn't so much into the Pisces album, but I really like this one, and there's another album I like too from the Monkees from this year that I'll talk about. But yeah, so a really good year for the Monkees in my opinion. Maybe the best year as a band. Anyway, so that's my number 7. So now we're going to number 6, Bryer.
Number 6, we're going to Cream, Disraeli Gears.
Disraeli Gears.
Yep. Okay, so of course, like we already said this, of course, me and Nick did a series on them, so I'm just paraphrasing what I said. But yeah, this is my second favorite Cream album. My favorite one will be Next Year. But this is still really, really spectacular album. I mean, the cover, of course, very
Yeah,
iconic too. But this is also the period like like mid to late '60s where album covers are starting to actually
I mean,
be more appealing.
like that album cover and like Are You Experienced? I mean, that's psychedelic and an album
Yeah,
cover.
just perfect for the time.
Yeah,
But yeah, of course we have the classic power trio. Of course we have Eric Clapton on guitar, Jack Bruce on bass, and Ginger Baker on drums. And yeah, this is them basically blending their blues rock sound with the psychedelic sound, and it all just kind of works because believe me, there was an album I did not care for in '67 where they did do the same thing and it did not work at all. Here, it actually functions very well. Starts with Strange Brew, great opening song. Love the sound of Eric's guitar just starting it off. Just a nice chill, kind of one of the more chiller songs, but sets the mood very well. Second song, of course, you have the big one, "Sunshine of Your Love," with the one of the most iconic guitar riffs ever constructed. And yeah, it's a amazing song, of course. But then you have a nice deep cut with "World of Pain." Always like that song. Just the mood they're going for. Really like the lyrics of that one. Lyrics of that one really stand out to me. Dance the Night Away. That's kind of where the psychedelic really come into play. But it's kind of this kind of more very cool, very interesting atmosphere they're going for. Kind of more darker in a sense, but I like it a lot. Blue Conditions, one of the weaker songs. That's when you have Ginger Baker get a chance to have a lead vocal, and yeah, he's no singer. But you know, it's not his worst song he ever did, but it's kind of like not my favorite. But it picks up yet again with Tales of Brave Ulysses. Another fantastic one. Again, the vocals from Jack Bruce on that track is really good. And just the drumming on it's very big sounding, very again, pretty heavy for the time, which is very nice. Then you get another pretty kind of psychedelic, well, it has a very psychedelic title with SWLABR, which stands for whoa, I actually blanked on what it stands for. I know the last two words. Something
it's a
with a
fan.
beard, something with a bearded lady, or something with a bearded something. Um, but yeah, it's very weird title. Um, Still a good song though, very enjoyable song. Another kind of more faster paced songs, and another very good heavy riff on that one, which is kind of surprising with a title like that, but still very cool. We're Going Wrong, kind of the more slower songs, but I think that's where you really hear Jack's vocals really shine, at least to me on that one. Like how he's just really belting it out in some certain moments, and how he's kind of prolonging, sustaining the notes on it, which is very nice. Outside Woman Blues, Eric showing his blues. Not much to say there, but still cool. I like that one still. And then you have Take It Back, another very good song, very nice one. And then it closes out with Mother's Laments, which is kind of a joke song, basically, just them doing this. I feel like I think I said this in the review, but it sounds like they were just really drunk in the studio and they decided just to sing this kind of arm in arm, just sing this jaunty tune, this 1 minute and 48-second song, and then they kind of close it there. Another song I'm not that crazy for, but it is what it is. But yeah, it's again really good. Again, the guitar playing from Eric, one of his more classic performances on here. Again, great drumming and great bass work, of course, and yeah, definitely one of their best. So yeah, that's my number 6. Disraeli Gears.
Cool.
Definitely hitting the
S
rock there, Bryer.
Well,
With your
Yeah, it's gonna get weirder.
SWLABR stands for She Was Like a Bearded Rainbow.
I knew it had
What?
beard something.
A rainbow can have a beard? I'm confused.
Yeah, I don't think it actually had a meaning.
Did they
Yeah,
do? You don't have to answer that.
it's kind of like Nip by Black Sabbath. It's like there's no meaning.
Yeah, it just sounded weird and cool in the moment.
Sure.
Pretty much. My number 6. This album is by the Hollies. So
All right.
we do get a Hollies album, and that's going to be Evolution.
Evolution. All right.
So that's going to be my album, and my Hollies representation album. And yeah,
We cover both
I
albums.
I think this is the better. This is my favorite Hollies album. It has always been my favorite Hollies album. Butterfly's great though. That's my. It's either my third or my second favorite Hollies album. I always felt like Evolution, Butterfly, for certain because those are always the three best albums.
Mm-hmm.
And it's to me that's when Graham Nash was at his peak with the Hollies.
Yeah.
And yeah, some great songs on here. Then the Heartaches Began was great. Psychedelic hard rock song. Stop Right There, cool vocal by Graham Nash, pretty psychedelic. Water on the Brain, really cool song. Low By to Tim, it's a weird song, but I enjoy it. Have You Ever Loved Somebody? As Scott said, is an amazing rock song. Definitely one of their best songs. I know it's Scott's favorite Holly song.
Mm-hmm.
See that? You Need Love, great song. Side 2 is when the album gets really good for me. Rain on the Window is a really great pop song. Heading for a Fall is amazing. Ye Olde Talk Shop. I love that song. I mean, Breyer's a sucker for ballads. I'm a sucker for Baroque pop songs.
Yeah, you are.
And this is their most Baroque pop song, and it's my favorite Holly song. I love the Baroque feel of it. It's pretty much Graham Nash singing about being a little kid and going to a candy shop.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that. I know people are like, that's stupid. That's a dumb idea. And I get how people could dislike it, but it's awesome. I love it. It's a great song. When Your Lights Turned On was great. Such a great power ballad. Leave Me is pretty cool, and The Games We Play is a great album closer. All in all, this is an amazing album. Has arguably my favorite album covers of all time.
Good album cover.
Such a great album cover. And yeah, I think this is an essential album for me. I really like it.
Scott's a sucker for guitar solos. Yeah. Love a good guitar solo. Number 6 for him is the Other Doors album. So he has them back to back, 7 and 6, with Strange Days. People Are Strange is his favorite song on it. He says he liked it a little bit more than their debut, but they're both great. I'm not a big fan of the Doors, to be honest, but I think the second album is better than the first one, too. I don't know. I'm really not a fan of the first one. Second one's a little bit better for me. Not quite as strange, maybe. I don't know, or something about it. That the end song was just so crazy on that first album. And I think Jacob Martin listened to it too, and he agreed with me on that first album. But yeah, number 6. All right, let's talk about the big album this year. I said one of us is going to cover it, and here it is, and that is Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, which I got on CD here from my parents' house. I mean, we can say it's considered the biggest album from the Beatles. Most people, it's the best Beatles album. Again, I know Nick's not going to talk about it. Bryer, maybe, we'll see. But I had to mention it because, as you know, I'm a big Beatles fan. And every Beatles album is made in my top 10 so far. Like, there hasn't been a Beatles album so far that has not. Even my least favorite Beatles songs made it into the top 10. So of course I had to have Sgt. Pepper's here. And I don't like it as much as a lot of other people. This is kind of the fact that I have it this low is probably controversial to most Beatle fans. Are like, what? This isn't number 1 or 2? It's like, nah, it's right out my top 5. I don't know. I don't think it's as good as like other people think it is, but it obviously still has some great music in it. And like I said, I mean, you talk about good covers, Bryer. This is one of the greatest covers probably of all time.
Yeah.
You know, in my opinion. So cool. And obviously, there's Beatles are doing more psychedelic stuff here, and experimental stuff, and the production value is just amazing on this album. And it's got some of the most iconic songs as well, including one of my favorite songs and a lot of people's favorite songs. In fact, I just watched Watch Mojo's 20 Best Beatles Songs the other day, and guess what was number 1? A Day in the Life. A Day in the Life is almost always number 1 every time I look at a list. It's not my favorite, but it is my top 10 favorite Beatles songs. And a great closer to the album. And it's such a cool idea for a song. I love the orchestra buildup. I think that's what really makes me like love this. It's my favorite song on the album, of course. And man, I just never heard anybody do that before. The boom, like I love it. The fact they do it twice in here is so cool. But and I just love John's vocals are so good on here. I heard the news today, oh boy, like I just love the way he sings that. And anyway, so yeah, of course that's the big song on here. But also love I would say one of my favorite like deep cuts is She's Leaving Home. Absolutely love that song. It's such a beautiful song. It's my second favorite on here. Such an I would say it's underrated, but every time I talk to another person who's heard this album, they love that song. So I think if you heard the album, you come away going, yeah, that's one of the best songs. But love the harp on there or whatever, and just
there's only one person in our group who
yeah, that's right. There was somebody. Yes, there was somebody who didn't care for that song, and I couldn't believe it. Like what? I mean, Nick, like just like we were beside ourselves on that number. But yeah, man, just great vocal work. Oh my gosh, great songwriting. Loves She's Leaving Home. Lucy in Sky Diamonds. That's one of their best psychedelic songs, I would say, that they ever done, and really cool imagery by John writing about marmalade skies and whatever. Really weird imagery, but really cool. Super catchy chorus. With a little help from my friends, one of Ringo's best vocal works on a song. And it's such a great song. Love that song as well. And I really like Getting Better. That's another song I really love. Super catchy, great guitar playing there. Those 5 songs I absolutely love. But the problem with I have this album is then the rest of the songs to me just are they're okay. They're not great. Stuff like Fixing a Hole and When I'm 64, Lovely Rita, Good Morning, Good Morning. They're just okay. They're not some of my favorite Beatles songs, to be honest. And then you got 2 songs I really do not like. Within You, Without You, and Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite. Some of my least favorite Beatles songs, unfortunately. That's why this album isn't going to be number 1 on my list because, again, a couple songs I really don't like on here, and a couple just okay songs. But the top songs are really good still, and that's why I still have it in my top 10. Still have it number 6 on my list, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. All right, now we're getting to our top 5. Bryer?
Right. Number 5. Right. So this one, it's actually kind of funny because actually me and this band have something in common. And that is we both technically sold out. if you get it, if you get what I mean by that, then you know. But in any case, we got The Who. This is, of course, their 3rd studio album. And this is kind of when, the band were really starting to really hit their stride. You know, their first 2 albums are pretty solid in their own right, but this is kind of when they're really starting to get closer to, at least we're pretty much in my preferred era of The Who. But of course, it's a concept album, basically parodying radio. It's basically, and They have lots of fake ads on this one. But it's a very fun album. Of course, the album cover is very fun. You have a lot of because you got the advertisements there. You got the baked beans and all. Yummy.
What's for
But
dinner? What's it?
what?
It's like, what's for dinner, Ma, or something like that. Or
Something like
so
that, yeah.
I forget what that
Uh,
is.
yeah, that's one of the ads there.
One of the advertisements.
One of the ads. But still, there's even though you have the ads, you still have some really good heavy tracks on this one. I mean, you start off with Armenia City in the Sky,
Okay,
pretty
that's it.
good heavy track. Yeah,
What's
there
for,
it is.
that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, very heavy song. Like the bass work on the song is very big sounding. The guitar riff is pretty cool. Just a nice opening song. Yeah, and you get the Heinz baked beans thing. You know, it's kind of a minute and a half, so it's kind of like doesn't overstay its welcome. Then you get to Marianne with the shaky hand. Really nice, good kind of more chiller song. Good vibe on that one. You get a drum commercial here that Keith does, which is kind of a nice drum solo. It's kind of nice. Then you have a deodorant ad with Odorono, which is kind of humorous. But Tattoo, that's another good song. Like the storytelling in that one. Our Love is another good, nice song. But then you have the big song, of course. You have I Can See for Miles. Yeah, that's a classic Who song. Just the drumming from Keith on that one alone is just absolutely killer. And just the chorus is catchy. And some really good guitar work from Pete. Even though he's just playing one note with this guitar solo, but still it sounds awesome. And after that, we have I Can't Reach You, another really nice kind of very poppy sounding song. I like the keyboard on the track. Very, very memorable. Then you have Medak, another ad there. But then you get Relax, which I think is another pretty solid track. Then you have another pretty underrated song. I really like Silas Stingy. Kind of this kind of more sinister kind of track, very cynical type of song, but I really like it. And just the vocal overdubs they do on that one, like they kind of more layered vocals on it, I really enjoy. That's always been a highlight. Sunrise is pretty good too, and then you close out with Real parts 1 and 2. Another very great closing song. And also a good kind of foreshadowing because you hear a little bit, a little music interlude that would be a big part on their next album, which we might talk about when we get to 69. But overall, it's a very fun album. A lot of variety on here, and it's the Who at their quirkiest, and gotta like it for it. But there we go. That's number 5.
Okay, so I'm very looking forward to talking about this album because this next album that made my top 5, I'll admit I really didn't care for it when I first heard it. I thought it was a terrible album. I don't know. I thought this album was super overrated. I'm like, really? This is like one of the best albums of this year? And if you remember me telling this story, Bryer, then you know where I'm going this. One time I re-listened to this album, I had no sleep. I was running on no sleep. And for some reason, that enhanced my listening on this album. Like, I listened to this, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to listen to this album. And I listened to it, I'm like, whoa, this album is awesome. That is none other than Velvet Underground and Nico
That's right.
by Velvet Underground and Nico. Or maybe you could technically say Andy Warhol is the name of the album because it's on the front cover.
Yeah, you signed it.
Andy Warhol. Yeah.
Maybe not.
I mean, that's a famous cover for sure.
Of course, yeah, it's a very iconic cover.
It's famous.
Especially the novelty that you can actually peel it.
Yeah, you peel it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is a really cool album. I thought this was a really cool album. I mean, again, this is an album that took me a while to get into. It took me it took me no hours of sleep to get into. And well, I'm going to highlight a comment Scott just said. The album that made Nick a fan of Lou Reed. That is correct. This was my gateway album into Lou Reed because I've heard Lou Reed's Transformer album. By the way, that's gonna be very high on my 60, not 60. That's gonna be very high on my 72 list, by the way. Let's see, wait. This is an awesome album, though. You open up with Sunday Morning, which it's a nice song. Sunday morning. I hear it on football commercials, about Sunday and all that, football, yay. But yeah, I thought it was a really nice album opener. Then he gets to Lou Reed stuff. I'm waiting for the man. It's a guy, it's a vibe. It's a vibe of a song. I really enjoyed it. Femi Fatale, I really enjoy. Venus and Furs, really cool song. That song is like, whoa. It's like super far out. Run, 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 I really enjoy. All Tomorrow's Parties is great. I think that's an amazing song. But the song that is my favorite Velvet Underground song, and arguably one of my favorite songs of all time, is Heroin. And what's great about this song is that it feels like the drug itself. Like the song is like what the drug feels like. And that's what makes it intriguing to me because God bless my two brothers. They overdosed on heroin and died. Rest their souls. And whenever I think about this song, I think about them. And I'm like, this is probably how they felt using this drug. And it's interesting. It's very, very interesting. John Lennon would agree. But it's an interesting song. And listening to this without any sleep, my head was spiraling. I'm like, if you know how the song sounds like, you'll know what I'm talking about. Just the way it sounds like. I had to re-listen to it. I'm like, what was that? And I mean that in a great way. I'm like, this is awesome. And yeah, that's my favorite song. And that follows up with a more lighthearted sounding song, There She Goes Again. I love that song too. There she goes again. When she's walking down the street again. I love that song. I want to hear Breyer's thoughts on this because I'm confident this is on his list.
I'm confident it'll be on this list.
I could be wrong. But yeah, another good song. I'll Be Your Mother, I really enjoy. The Black Angel's Death song. European Sun's a great album closer, but this is an album that you definitely need to check out at least once. And if you don't like it, listen to it again. Definitely listen to it again. It's one of those albums where you don't quite get it the first time. It's kind of like Gotcha with Scott, where it's like you don't really quite get it the first time. This is an album you need to listen to. Like, I know people listen to it, but you got to listen to it. This is one of those albums you got to listen to it. It's a very fascinating album because it doesn't sound like anything of the time. And it's just, I'll give it another try. I only made it 3 songs in the first try. It's not, it's a very interesting album. It's a very, very interesting album. If you want a better introduction to Lou Reed, check out Transformer. That is a much better introduction to him. This is it's an introduction for sure, but it's an album that has grown on me so much, and it didn't make my top 100 albums last time, but when Bryer does eventually get to his top 100 albums, and I do a 2025 or 2026 version, depending on when Bryer does his, expect this to be on the list. I don't know how high or how low, but expect it to be on the list. It's a really, really good album, and I really enjoy it. It's in my top 5. I would have never guessed myself putting this in my top 5, but it's an album that grew on me so much. It's a grower for sure. And whoever doesn't like this album, I'm not going to blame you for it. It's not an album that's for everyone. Exactly. Jason and Scott, don't throw yourself under the bus. Don't be like, I don't get it. I feel bad. it's not for everyone. His
Yeah.
music is not for everyone. He has a way of making music that took me a bit to get into. And once he clicks with you, he'll forever click with you. Lou Reed is that kind of person. Like once he clicks, he clicks. And this and Transformer are two albums that clicked for me. And hopefully it does for you and Scott, but that's just my experience. I know I went on a huge tangent on this album, but I really enjoy it. But excuse me, while Jason gives his number 5, I gotta use the restroom. I'll be right back.
That's one album I do not understand at all why people like that album. But I see it on top 10 lists all the time. It is one of the most popular albums like of all time. Like Rolling Stones.
For the time, it was pretty adventurous because now when not many people did it like they did, and of course it would influence other bands as well. And Scott actually put a comment in there that it said that not many people, because I guess I'll say now it didn't sell well when it first came out, but the legend goes that every single person who bought it started their own band.
Yeah, I've heard that quote. That's one of those albums I remember everybody's talking about. Oh, it's like it's really high on everybody's list, and I heard it one time, didn't get it. It's like I don't understand what's this. And I can't remember what the music was. I just remember going, I do not understand this music. And I think it's Lou Reed. Lou Reed, he like doesn't sing, he like talks. And I'm like
he's like I don't know. There's a bit of a Bob Dylan aesthetic to him, but it's even more like untrained than Bob Dylan, I'd say.
Because I've heard that Transformed, because you had it on the essential album list, whatever, Transformer, and it's all take a walk on the wild side. That's the whole song. Take the walk on the. I'm like, can you sing? Sing.
Yeah, I mean, he was singing. That was his singing voice.
I just doesn't sing. Like I can do that. I can do a whole album where
and that was his appeal. Like that's kind of like Bob Dylan's appeal too, I guess, if you say, because they both aren't singers, but I guess that was like the appeal that anybody could be like him, like them, in a sense. But that's the idea.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he was friends with David Bowie, and he produced. Let's see. All right, Scott. Number 5 is "Are You Experienced" by Jimi Hendrix. Great album. Favorite song, "Fire." Really good pick. There are so many great songs on that album. "Fire" is not one of the big hits on there, but I love "Fire." That is a great song. Great rocker as well. So I like that you picked that. Nobody.
No.
There's no way. That's another. I do not understand that band either.
Was that the year 69, or is that part of the album name?
No, it's the year it came out.
What's the name of that band?
Captain Beefheart.
Yeah, Captain Beefheart. That's another one where I see that on the list, and I'm like, I don't understand how people like that album, but I see it on lists all the time.
What? That's my favorite album of that year.
Oh no. But I don't get the what they call the Grateful Dead. I don't get them either, and people like them, and I'm like, I don't get it. But that's just one of those things. Yeah, cute. Captain Beefheart's magic. I think my favorite on the album is the one without a guitar solo. All right. Number 5 for me, album that Nick mentioned, and that is Buffalo Springfield Again by Buffalo Springfield. So
we're getting Buffalo Springfield again.
Again, we're getting to Buffalo Springfield again. Luckily they came up with a better title for the third one, I think, if I remember right.
And it's the weakest album too.
The weakest album.
Like the best album title equals the worst album.
Yeah, I really like this album. I really like Buffalo Springfield. I wish they would have made more albums. Except that they, of course, I say that, but then they went on and made Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, which made some great albums too. So I guess it all worked out. But part of me is like, man, this should have been like one of the next best big things if they would have kept going. But I agree with like Nick was saying about this album. What I like about this is, yeah, the first album um, was a folk rock album with some country also in it. And this album does have some of the folk rock and some of the country still in it. But we had a lot of psychedelic rock in here, which makes this album really cool. I like Buffalo Springfield, the first album, better than this one, but both albums are really, really good Buffalo Springfield albums. Um, yeah, Mr. Soul, I love that song. That's my third favorite Buffalo Springfield song, my favorite on this album. And it's their best rock song that they did. And man, it comes in with those. It's just, yeah, nothing like this on the first album. I mean, when that guitar comes in and that sound, the tone of the guitar, the kind of the more, I don't know, what do you call it? Distortion, I guess, of the guitar sounds so cool. And that dun 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 dun, whatever that guitar riff or whatever that throughout the whole song is so great. And then so absolutely incredible guitar solo. I mean, Neil Young is such a good guitar player. One of the, I mean, we talk about Jimi Hendrix, Eric Clapton. I mean, Neil Young, I put in that list too. I mean, even Steven Stills is an amazing guitar player too. I mean, just so many great guitar players here. But yeah, love that song. I love his vocals. Mr. Soul, come out to meet you. I don't know. Like no one sings like Neil Young. It's so great. But yeah, love that song. Yeah, I agree. Child's Claim Fame, another really good one. Richie Furay comes in with this country to balance out the psychedelic rock of Neil Young. Yeah, really good song. Every Days, I really like that song. I think that's a still song. Again, I love this that we get three songwriters, all three Stills, Furay, and Young, all are writing. All three are writing songs. All are lead singers. I mean, I just love it. I love the multiple lead singers, multiple songwriters. I love when bands do that, and that's what, like the Byrds, them, Association, the Beatles. You go through all these bands I really enjoy, Beach Boys, whatever. It's like it just gives us so much dynamic. I think for an album. And yeah, so that's great. Expecting to Fly, yeah, so good. Great vocals from Neil Young. Bluebird, I agree, great rock song. Really good stuff there. Hung Upside Down is great. Sad Memory, as you said, really good. And Rock and Roll Woman, I really like. So yeah, and I agree. What was it? That one song you mentioned? It's almost a good song, but it's just a little too chaotic for me to like put as one of my favorite. There's some good moments though. On that song. I'm forgetting the name of it. But anyways, yeah, overall, another really solid rock, folk rock, country album from Buffalo Springfield. Love their sound anyway. So yeah, that's my number 5. So 2 years in a row, they make in my list. Unfortunately, yeah, that's the end of the Buffalo Springfield, unfortunately. But Crosby, Stills, Nash will come back on in 69. So, all right. So now we're down to number 4.
Number 4, this will be another quick one because again, Nick also talked about this one. That'll be the Beach Boys, Wild Honey.
Wild Honey.
Yeah, again, I'm gonna go be quick because I think Nick summed it up pretty well. Yeah, this is Beach Boys tackling soul music basically, and this is basically Carl's in charge now.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it works surprisingly really well. Yeah, it's a very quick album too. It's only barely 25 minutes, roughly. So it's not really a long one. But again, I just think every song on here, for the most part, every song, are very very good. I think this is I do agree with Nick. I think this is Carl Wilson at his peak, because he really gets to show off more of his vocals a lot more than usual. And songs like Wild Honey is great. I love that. That's a great opening song. Aren't You Glad's really good too. And yeah, I like Country Air as well. It's another good highlight. Here Comes the Night, the original, is also really nice too. That's another highlight for me as well. And yeah, I like, same with Nick. I like how she boogalooed it. I think that's a very fun song. I think it's interesting. I think the only song that's probably the weakest is Mama Says. It's only a minute. It's kind of doesn't really, not a lot goes on in it. But aside from that, I think the rest of the album really holds itself up very well. This is definitely the start of, I think, is probably the Beach Boys' most underrated period. It's kind of almost the forgotten period. People don't really talk about this period, but I think there's definitely some great underrated material on some of these albums moving forward. But yeah, I think it was surprised me how high it got, but I'm not complaining. There you go, number 4, Wild Honey.
Okay, so my number 4 is going to be Just For You by Neil Diamond. So this album, to me, this is my favorite Neil Diamond album. This made it really high on my top 100 albums list.
Yeah, I kind of remember that now.
And to me, this is like, of the amount of albums I've heard from him, which wasn't a lot, but I've heard quite a bit of his albums. This is his most poppiest album. This is an album I totally recommend Jason listening to. It's an album I feel like you would like the most.
Okay.
This has so many great songs that would end up getting covered. There were like 3 songs on here that would end up becoming more famous with other people. First song on the album, "Girl, You'll Be a Woman Soon." That's an amazing song.
Great.
Girl, boom, boom, boom,
Yeah.
you'll be a woman soon. Of course, Pulp Fiction would use a different version, but this is, to me, the best version, of course, because you can't beat Neil Diamond in his own songs. Really, really good song. Then you follow that up with "The Long Way Home," which is a great song. Another fun pop song. Then you follow that up with "Red, Red Wine." Much better than the UB40 version. Their version's terrible. It's like white guys trying to do reggae. It's like, unless you're the Police or Rush, don't do reggae, please. But yeah, Neil Diamond, it's like a nice ballad, and it's so beautiful. You'll Forget, fun pop song. The Boat That I Row, fun song. Boat that I rowed across the ocean. Boat that I rowed. Bum, 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 bum. Really fun song. Cherry Cherry. I love Cherry Cherry. She got the way to move me.
Oh,
She
great.
got the way to groove me. Bum, 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 bum. I'm like, I'm so happy you know that song. That's one of my just
Oh,
a
yeah,
recent.
great
You
song.
should check that. You should check the album out, Jason. I feel like you'll like
I
it.
need on Neil Diamond. I just listened to Stones recently. The only one I know so far, but
Check out Just For You when you get the
yeah.
chance to. But yeah, Cherry Cherry. I don't want to be the generic one. It's the one hit song on the album. It's my favorite song on the album. It's so fun. Ba 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 cherry, she's got the way to move me. She's got the way to groove me. Bum, 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 bum. Yes, I love that song. Then you get to "I'm a Believer." I love his version of "I'm a Believer." He
Yeah.
wrote the song. He wrote the song, so technically this is his version. This
Yeah.
is like the original version, and I love it. I think it's my favorite version of it.
Okay.
I just love Neil. I love Neil Diamond's originals. Monkey's version, of course, second place, but yeah, Neil Diamond's version so good. Shiloh, I really enjoy. You got to Me is really good. Solitary Man is an awesome song, and Thank the Lord for the Nighttime is
Hey,
another.
those are great songs. Yeah.
See, this album might be for you. You should check it
That's
out.
like a big album. Yeah.
It's my favorite Neil Diamond album. It has a bunch of his like iconic songs on here. I mean, "Girl, You'll Be a Woman," "Red Red Wine," "Cherry Cherry," "I'm a Believer," "Shiloh," "Solitary Man," "Thank the Lord for the Nighttime." All those songs are on his Greatest Hits album, and no one talks about this album. It shocks me. It's a really good album, and
Well, it wasn't on my radar. I didn't even listen to it, so I don't know. I missed it for some reason.
you should check it out. It's an album all both of you guys check this album out. This is, to me, I don't think I don't think there'll be a Neil Diamond album that comes close to being as good as this album, because there's just so many big hits on this album.
Yeah.
It's like it's like his Greatest Hits album almost. But yeah, I really like this album. I want it to be higher on my list, but there's just 3 albums I think are better.
Awesome. Neil Diamond. We got some Neil Young and some Neil Diamond on this this video. The two good Neils. Yeah, Stephen Stills, Neil Young will return. Number 4, he's got the Rolling Stones Between the Buttons. I know that's one of his favorite earlier Rolling Stones albums. And his favorite is Miss Amanda Jones. All right, number 4. Are You Experienced by Jimi Hendrix Experience that Bryer talked about and Scott had on his as well. Yeah, it's hard not to have this on your list of this year. I mean, it's such a huge, great debut, one of the great debut albums. You had the Doors' great debut album. You have this one as well. I guess Nico, I don't know if that's her debut or is that?
Yeah, it's the debut.
Yeah, so you got that big debut. So you have a lot of big debuts albums coming out this year, but this is my favorite of those albums. Yeah, this is like I would say this is like the essential psychedelic rock album. It rocks so hard. Oh my gosh, it's my favorite Jimi Hendrix album. And I covered Jimi Hendrix. I did a deep dive on him on my channel, and me and Nick did a top 10 of him. And I had a lot of songs from this album was in my top 10. I mean, Purple Haze, Hey Jude, Hey Jude, Hey Jude.
We're not at that year yet. That's next year.
Hey, yeah, man. Jimi Hendrix singing Hey Jude. That'd be interesting. Take a sad sound. Yeah, Hey Joe, The Wind Cries Mary, Fire, Foxy Lady. Yeah, those are all in my top 10 favorite Jimi Hendrix songs. I mean, this is to me, like we always say, this is like a greatest hits album. I mean, like I said, it has some of the best songs in my opinion on this album, including my favorite song from him, Purple Haze, which starts the album. Oh my gosh, what a great start. One of the best rock songs of all time. One of the greatest beginnings to a rock song ever. The bam, dang, 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 dang. Oh my gosh. When that song starts, you're just like, oh my gosh, this is so awesome. Love the guitar playing on that. And some of the best guitar playing ever. I still don't think anybody has matched him as far as guitar playing on this album. It's just out of this world. So good with the distortion and feedback and all that. Manic Depression is a great song too. It's another song that's more of a deep cut, I guess, but it's great. Hey Joe is like his first, I think, big hit, kind of, but it's so great that Hey Joe. I remember the first time hearing this on the radio and just being like, "Wow, this song is good." And it's not as rocking as some of his other stuff, but man, I just love that. What are you doing with that gun in your hand? Oh, I just love the way he sings it and the backing vocals, anything. Yeah. Wind Cries Mary is another one where it's like a little laid back kind of, but still the guitar playing is great. And yeah, I love the guitar playing on that one as well. And it's another just great song. I think it's kind of hit for him. Fire is so good. I think we did like when we did our 5 like deep cuts, whatever, of 67 on Nick's channel, that was on my list of one of the 5 best deep cuts of that year. I think it's so good. It's not even like I don't think it's a huge hit. I think I did hear it on like a commercial. I think I remember seeing a commercial and going, it was like a car commercial. I'm like, what is this song? It's so cool. And it was Jimi Hendrix, Fire. And Foxy Lady. Oh my gosh, Foxy Lady is so good. And I first heard this song on Wayne's World. And I thought, what is this goofy, I thought it was cool. I was like, but it's because of if you've seen the movie, the way Garth, is singing it and he's doing these movements, so it kind of makes it a little goofy. But when I heard it on its own, I'm like, this is so awesome. The Foxy Lady coming to get you. Oh my gosh, the guitar sounds so amazing on the song. I mean, Foxy Lady and Purple Haze is like, oh my gosh, just some of the best guitar playing, and then you get to, of course, All Along the Watchtower later on. Just some of the greatest guitar playing ever, in my opinion. I love Jimi Hendrix guitar playing. This is a great psychedelic album. Definitely a must for anybody, in my opinion. So it had to be here at number 4 on my list.
Okay.
All right, number 3.
Right from this point onward, these next three are all. I will give these 10 out of 10s. So number 3,
Ah,
don't need to say it what it is. You all know
I
what it is. But yeah,
that one Frank Zappa album.
good one. That's a good one.
I wish I could remember the album name. It would have been
I think
funnier.
I remember. I think it was called. We were just doing it for the money. I think.
Yeah, that one, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And sadly, no. Yeah.
sadly.
But in any case, yeah, we got Sergeant Pepper. Yeah, it's one of the biggest albums of all time. You know, I mean, what's more else to say about it? I'm just gonna go ahead and just talk about the tracks now. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's worth noting it's kind of a quasi concept album. It's kind of the the Beatles are putting on this persona as Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Heart Club Band, and it's not really a overlapping story. It's kind of like that's just the vibe of what they're doing. Of course, you have the title song, which kind of sets the mood. Just a nice, good rock song to get you moving, and then it just goes right into with a little help from my friends. And yeah, that's a great Ringo song. Definitely, might be that's probably my favorite Ringo song, of course. Just the overall vibe of it just has this very happy, very playful vibe, which you're kind of like, yeah, very lovely. Um, then you have, of course, you go right into Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, another one of their classic tracks. Just the psychedelic influence is on full swing, full display, drugs and all, allegedly. Anyway, any case, but yeah, getting better. Yeah, that's another really good kind of pop rock sort of sound. And it has that nice kind of guitar riff in a sense, and it has a very catchy chorus to it, which I really enjoy. Um, I really dig "Fixing a Hole." It's not one of my favorite songs, but I do enjoy that one quite a bit. But yeah, you get "She's Leaving Home," and yeah, gorgeous song. Love the string arrangement on that one. And I love the vocals on it. Just absolutely gorgeous one. Being the benefit of Mr. Kite, one of the more quirky songs, but I still quite enjoy it. I kind of like the quirkiness of it. Like Nick said, Kate Bush fan, so yeah, I like
Yeah.
quirky. I do agree. I'm not that crazy about Within You Without You.
You're on
It's
my.
it's at least George gets a chance to shine a bit, and he's definitely into the Indian music, which when I listen to the album, I don't mind it, but I rarely ever listen to it on its own. But yeah, it's okay. But yeah, and then you have When I'm 64, in which I've come to learn it's a pretty divisive song apparently.
Yeah, Jacob's channel, we did that.
Yeah, yeah.
That was the best.
All I'll say, don't lie to me. When we all turn 64, this will be the first song we
Oh,
play. Well,
all right.
like full blast, we'll play this song.
Oh yeah.
But yeah,
YouTube's still around. I'll be playing that on my guitar for sure.
oh yeah. But it's another quirky song. But yeah, I like the quirk. And I like the sentiment behind it. Lovely Rita, I think it's another one of my not my another one of my least favorite songs, but I still think it's kind of nice. Another song I'm not that crazy about is good. Yeah, I agree. Is Good Morning, Good Morning,
Yeah.
which is funny because it actually played on the last episode of the Monkees. Surprisingly,
Really?
yeah, they just played like in the opening scene. They played that was their alarm clock. Good morning, good morning. So interesting tidbit there.
Okay.
Yeah, if you ever watched that last Monkees episode, it is bonkers.
Watch that show. It's been a while.
Yeah, it is bonkers. Because apparently Mickey wrote that episode, and apparently he was drugged. He was drugged out when he wrote it, and it shows. It's basically a prelude to the head,
I said,
basically. Any case, besides that, yeah. But then you have the reprise of Sergeant Pepper, which kind of brings it back full circle. But you think that's the end, but no. Of course, you have the epic song "A Day in the Life," and yes, I love "A Day in the Life." It's another one of my favorite Beatles songs. I mean, you have two different sections, but they all fit so well together. You have John's section, the more somber, very melancholic intro. But then you have Paul, which comes in. It kind of lightens the mood a little bit. Um, and then yeah, the arrangement, the orchestration, especially when it just kind of creeps up. It kind of when you first hear it, it kind of creeps you out. It kind of scary at first,
Yeah.
but then you kind of realize just how kind of cool it is after a while. And it probably has one of the best, like I guess, mic drops with that final piano chord. that final piano chord and just how long they just draw out that note until you can just barely hear it. It's just an absolute excellent, one of the great closing songs to an album, I would say. But yeah, despite the couple songs I'm not as crazy about, I would still give it a 10 out of 10 because I think the highs on this one are still very high, and they definitely outweigh the kind of the weaker songs. But it's again classic, one of the most iconic album covers, of course, and yeah, had to be on this list. That's my number 3.
All right.
Okay, so my number 3 is going to be by another British invasion band. And that's going to be the Kinks with Something Else by the Kinks. So, of course, ever since 65, I think I've been having the Kinks on my list. And, well, they're getting closer and closer to getting number 1 on my list.
They're going up they're going up the charts.
They're getting better and better. It's like,
yeah.
It's like, man, this Kinks band they just get better and better. And yeah, I love this album. This has always been an album I really enjoyed. I mean, check me and Jason's Kinks video out. we went through a whole series on them.
Yeah.
Call Me Basic. This is my favorite part of the Kinks. This is my favorite period of them. I know most people will agree with me on that.
Yeah.
I hate being the generic basic one on opinions, but if I have an opinion that agrees with people, that's my opinion. I know I'm usually known for having, usually the hot takes or the controversial opinions, but the Kinks they're like one of the few bands that I have the popular opinion, and
Yeah.
you'll really see that when we do our next top albums list, which is 68. You'll see that. But yeah, Something Else, awesome album. Just another great Kinks album. David Watts, fun song. Basically him being jealous that he wants to be like David Watts. Death of a Clown, my favorite Kinks song.
Favorite song, yeah.
My favorite song. I don't know why this was not my favorite song, but it just gets better and better. Every time I listen to the song, it just gets better and better. The way Dave Davies sings it is so good. Lyrically, it's one of the most heartbreaking songs that it's ever been made, and it's about a clown of all things. But it manages to be so sad. Like the old fortune teller lies dead on the floor. Nobody needs fortunes told anymore. The trader with insects is crouched on his knee and frantically looking for a runaway flea. Those lyrics are so good. Great lyricist. And Dave Davies is not known for being the lyricist. Normally it's it's Ray Davies. And Dave Davies just comes up with the best song in their discography. I really love the song. And then Two Sisters. Again, I'm a sucker for a Baroque pop song. It's a Baroque pop song. I love it. No Return, pretty good. Harry Rag. I mean, it's about being addicted to cigarettes. It's goofy, but I like it. It's like it's like it's very British sounding. Like my lass was a very old lass. She didn't but she had enough strength to have a Harry Rag. Harry Rag. Harry Rag. I like it though. Tin Soldier Man, fun song. But it was a tin soldier man living in a tin wonderland. Oh, I love that song. Situation Vacant's pretty good. Love Me Till the Sunshine, another great Dave Davies rocker. I love that song. You don't have to cook for me. You don't have to sleep with me. All you gotta do is love me till the sun shines. That's a great song. Lazy Old Son. They do like very little psychedelic music. They do like 2 in their discography.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them are really good. Like I mean, yeah, it would have been nice to hear more of it, but maybe it was better off they did it in small dosages. I know me and Jason both like Lazy Old Sun. Afternoon Tea. I love that song. Ba, 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 Afternoon Tea. Very British, but I like it. Funny Face, another great Dave Davies song. I mean, if you watched our review on the first album, you'll know I hated on Dave Davies, but
Yeah,
he just got better and better. But if, as you would know, the more they went into their discography, the less Dave Davies
yeah,
sung and
he
wrote.
got-
It's so upsetting because he got better and better, but it just took him. It was just
yeah. Ray kind of took over. Yeah,
it's sad because Dave Davies was getting so much. He was getting great too. End of the Season is a great song, and of course, the album closer, Waterloo Sunset, is one
yeah.
of the most iconic songs in
So,
their discography. It's all the songs where it's like,
what are the sunsets?
I believe this was in my top 10 Kink songs.
Uh,
It was really high on my list, and I know it's
yeah,
Jason's favorite. It's one of those songs where it's so good. I wish it was more popular. I wish instead of hearing Lola all the time, I wish Waterloo Sunset would get half the
yeah,
radio play. Waterloo Sunset's such a great song. Such a beautiful song. Ba,
yeah.
ba, ba, every time I look through my window.
Oh,
La, la, la. Oh, great song. Great album closer. I
yeah,
mean, even though Death of the Clown's my favorite Kink song, I couldn't have thought of a better album closer than Waterloo Sunset. That's like one of, if not their best album closers they've ever made. It's like that and Celluloid Heroes are like they're like neck and neck and me in their best album closer. Those two songs. Something Boulevard. I love that song too, but Waterloo Sunset. I don't have much more to say. It's iconic. It's well loved. It's a Kink fan favorite. It's a great song, and I'm gonna be basic. It's one of my favorite Kinks albums. I know it's a typical choice, but I don't know. Sometimes the typical choice just happens to be my favorite, and yeah, this is like easily my top 3 favorite Kinks albums. It's really that good.
yeah, yeah. And only number 3 on your list.
Yeah, 2 more albums.
2 more albums bigger. Um, so Scott's saying we're only in it for the money,
Yeah, that's the Frank Zappa album.
and the Ruddles, Captain Salt, Single Salvation Army crew. The Ruddles parodying the Beatles. And his number 3, we got the Magical Mystery Tour. Great album. And Strawberry Fields. Yeah, great song off that album. Good pick there. All right, number 3 for me. And this one shocked me. I was not expecting to like it as much as I did. And the more I heard it, the more I fell in love with this album. And it is Headquarters by the Monkees.
Really?
Yeah,
Headquarters, and what would you rate the album?
I reckon 9.5 right now is what I'm putting it.
Wow. I was not expecting to. I'm telling you, I was not expecting Headquarters to be on your list. I
No,
was not expecting that. That
first
is
time,
a surprise to me.
first time I heard it, I didn't really care about it. I was like, listen to it, I was like, oh, because there's like no big hits on this album. It's like a compared to
Yeah.
compared to like more of the Monkees, it's like not really any big hits on here. And so when I first heard it, I don't know, I think I was like, oh, there's no hits here. I'm not familiar with any of this music. And I don't know, I wasn't like that into it. And then I listened to it a couple more times, and then I was like, man, these songs are really good. Like this is still some really catchy stuff here. And it's such an interesting album because I believe this is their first album that they wrote all the music themselves, pretty much.
It's their first and last time they're 100%.
And last time,
It's like their only album where they're independent because the first album they had no weren't. I mean, Mike Nesmith wrote one song on the album, but they were pretty much like they couldn't do anything.
they probably
For
did.
the Monkees,
Yeah,
that album was it's not even that they didn't have any control. They just made an album of songs that they recorded. This album, like the thing about this album that makes it so interesting. I'm sorry, I'm going to do the story of this album is that after More of the Monkeys, they were pissed. They were really pissed. They were like, we didn't know about this album. You weren't addressing us to this album.
Yeah.
We're pissed. We want control. And if not, we're not going to do this anymore. And the record label and they were like, okay, fine. We'll let you write your own music. We'll let you do your own instruments. And Headquarters ends up being the result of that. Sorry to get on that spiel, but that's what makes this album so great is that
Yeah.
it's just after being taken advantage of, they're like, we're not going to be taken advantage of any longer. And that's what makes Headquarters such a good album. But anyways, go on with your review, please. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I think it's interesting that I'm hearing echo or something. That's what's so interesting. Yeah. Is that it's like, yeah, the first album album where they get to write their own stuff, because the Monkees got put together for a TV show basically, and you have two musicians with Nesmith and your Torque, and then you got two actors with Davy Jones and Mickey Dolenz, whatever, and so it's kind of this put together. It's a TV show. I mean, the Monkees was a TV show, which is so crazy to think about. And I think they're supposed to be kind of somewhat Beatle-esque, is the idea, you know, in their look and sound. And they had all these songwriters write songs for them. Yeah, so it's interesting getting to this, and it's like, okay, now the Monkees are trying to prove themselves. It's like, can we write our own songs? And I don't know if they did all their instruments too, but they're trying to do this stuff themselves. And I know they went on tour at some point, and they had Jimi Hendrix as their opener, which is insane. Having Jimi Hendrix as your opener for, which I think only lasted a couple shows, and then I think everybody was booing Jimi Hendrix because, you know, it's all like, you know, 13-year-old girls that, you know, love Davy Jones, and so that didn't last, but it's very interesting. And so I feel like the songwriting is like I said, the more the Monkees I love, it's very catchy poppy stuff. This, it's still catchy, I think. It's not as poppy, I would say, but still catchy. And it seems like maybe better songwriting or more mature songwriting in here. And so I kind of loved it. It felt more like, because they were writing it, it felt like more them, I guess, in this album in some sense. And yeah, this has been one of the best discoveries I've had so far, listening to these albums this year, is really falling in love with this album. Like I said, it really grew on me after I listened to it multiple times, and it was like, man, I'm really loving this album. I even heard a review on a podcast where they reviewed this album and they didn't give it a very good review. And I heard the review the whole time thinking, no, this is much better than what you guys are saying it is. Like, so I don't know if this is considered a good album by them, or by, you know, critics, or, you know, or what exactly. I know I've heard Monkees fans like this album, so I know it's popular amongst Monkees fans and all that. But and it sold well this year. Like I said, it was in the top 12 best selling albums, whatever, this year. But anyways, get the songs. My favorite song is Shades of Grey. I think that's one of the best Monkees songs. And I don't think it was a hit song. And it's like, I don't know why it could have been a hit song to me, but I thought they sang really well together. Again, vocally, so good. This album is so good vocally. I love Mickey Dolenz and David Jones's voices, especially, but the whole band sounds so good together, I thought, in this album. But yeah, I love Shades of Grey when they're singing and they all kind of cut out and it goes, only shades of gray, or whatever, whoever's singing that. I love it. Him just kind of almost singing a cappella there. It's so cool. But yeah, I love You Told Me. I'll Spend My Life With You. Oh my gosh, that is so good. Very catchy and all that. Forget That Girl. Love it. You Just May Be the One. It's a great song as well. I Can't Get Off From My Mind is that's definitely one of the poppy catchy songs on the album. But I love it. It's Mickey, I believe it's David Jones singing there, but I can't get her off of my mind. It's kind of like that. It's very bouncy, but I love it. It's great. No Time, and Randy Scows. Nah, I can't read it because I wrote it on my paper, but I think it's Randy Scows Get.
Yeah,
That's correct.
Yeah, sorry, it's really small on my writing because I had a hard time fitting all the songs. I love so many songs on this album, but I love how it starts. It's like, I don't know, it's just it's just normally saying, and then all of a sudden you get to that, I don't you, and then he just like goes from 1 to 11 like so fast. It's just like very very loud, very fast paced, that chorus. I loved it. I love the dynamic between the verse and the chorus, and the transition there. I don't know. I love that song too. I thought that was a really good song. But yeah, it's, I almost want to say it's such an underrated album, I guess, for me. At least for me, I don't know that much people talk about this album. Yeah, I loved it. It's a great Monkees album.
I'm so happy it was on your list. I was surprised. I won't lie. When you said Headquarters, I'm like, what? Because I love that album. Don't get me wrong, but I was surprised. I really was, and yeah, I'm happy. I'm guessing that's gonna be on your top 100 albums at some point if you ever decide to redo it again. But
I know. Oh, there's so many albums that, yeah, probably make it now because I've heard so many good albums lately.
now I really gotta. Now we three of us really gotta do a Monkey series now.
Oh yeah, definitely. All right, down to number 2.
Number 2. Yep, you knew this one was coming.
Nico.
There we go. Velvet Underground and Nico. Yep. So yeah, I've been a fan of this album for a number of years at this point, and yeah, it's out there, it's experimental, but there's just something about it that just resonates with me. I mean, it starts out with Sunday Morning, which, it's when you first hear it, it's kind of has this kind of breezy, kind of chill, laid back song. But little do people know that's like a very false sense of a security on what the ride you're going to be going into. But still nothing too crazy. You get the next song, I'm Waiting for the Man, which kind of has a good driving rhythm to it. And and it's pretty much, I mean, the lyrics behind it kind of also tells you just what kind of ride you're going for, because it's literally about a guy waiting for his drug dealer, which definitely was pretty out there for that period, especially just how direct it was. Like that's I'll talk more about it in a sec. But next song we have Femme Fatale, which is the first song with Nico on lead vocals. And Nico, technically she wasn't originally a member of the band. Nico was basically just forced upon the band by Andy Warhol because
Really?
they thought, because Andy was like, hey, I'll sign you, I'll record you, but you gotta have this German singer with you.
Huh.
And the band were like, the band were like, really? But they eventually caved. And yeah, I've heard many stories that they did not get along, the band and Nico. Yeah, and that's why
she can sing. I mean,
yeah, she's a good singer. I mean, you can obviously hear the accents because she is German, but I really like her voice. Kind of fits these songs they gave her. But it just adds a different dynamic to the album as well, because it is just Lou Reed for the most part. But when you have Nico, again, you have a nice contrast between. They never sing together, but they always kind of separate the two. But it's very interesting. Kind of adds the charm of this album. Venus and Furs, again, that's where the psychedelic and the acid rock really kick in, which is how this kind of brooding but very this guitar sound just has this very distorted sound to it, unlike anything else at this point. I think it's really cool. Run, Run, Run. It's another one of the more catchier songs. You have that kind of that repetition with the run, run, run bit, which is gives you a little bit more levity. Then you have All of Tomorrow's Parties, another song that's really cool. Really like that song a lot. Then you get track 7, and yes, I love Heroin, the song, not the drug. Don't get the wrong idea.
Let's put that in a clip.
Yeah.
I love Heroin.
Yeah, don't take that out of context.
I'm sure Scott would do that some way or another.
Oh,
I love Heroin.
That'll be a clip one. He'll use that in an intro one day. I'm sure of it.
Of course. Scott's writing down his notes as we speak.
Write that down. Time code it.
Yes.
But yes.
You know I
There it is.
will.
There you go.
Uh,
Anyway, but Heroin, man, it's one of Lou Reed's best like lyric. I mean, like Nick said it earlier, like how well. I mean, again, I never took heroin, but based on what I mean, I've heard people talk about this song, and some people who were on heroin at the time have said it describes the feeling to a T, just what the sensation is, because you're kind of at first, because the song has this very like kind of dreamlike kind of, but there's still like an underlying eeriness to it that you just can't really shake. But then at some point, the song starts to get more intense. It starts to get more frantic, and it starts to get even more panicky. Like you're really in the high, but then it just cuts back to that slowness again. You're just constantly in this roller coaster, and just how Lou Reed is really portraying the lyrics. Again, like I said, it is not sugar coated. Like he is telling you straight up what's going on here, and that's one big thing I really appreciate about this album, because 1967, it's summer of love. It's people are
yeah.
like peace and love, all happy. Everyone's saying like, oh my god, what a time to be alive. But then you have bands like the Velvet Underground, and even my number one pick to an extent. They were like, nah. They were not afraid to pull the rug and just tell you straight up and just give you a big reality check. Just it's not all sunshine and rainbows around this time. It can get dark. There's darkness within this era time we're living in, and bands like these are not afraid to expose it, which I respect a lot. Um, but yeah, I love Heroin. Definitely my favorite song on the album. There She Goes Again, another pretty nice song. I'll Be Your Mirror is probably my favorite song sung by Nico. I really like her vocals on that one in particular. And then you have the Black Angels Death Song. Again, doesn't sugarcoat it. But yeah, another cool one. And then it closes off with the 7-minute song European Sun, which is this probably another one of the more out there. There's a lot of feedback used, a lot of very distorted guitars, and it's just another trip. And you're like, well, I cannot picture this album ending any other way. And yeah, it is a trip, it's an experience for one thing. And it's kind of many bands have gone on record saying they were heavily influenced by this one. I know David Bowie was influenced by the Velvet Underground, of course, and just other bands like Sonic Youth are another pretty big band that were influenced by them. Kurt Cobain, of course, I'm sure was a fan of this album. But yeah, it is definitely one of a kind. No other album sounded like this at this point, and that's kind of why it kind of stood the test of time for its uniqueness. And yeah, that's number two.
So you got Lou Reed singing about heroin. You got Eric Clapton singing about cocaine. Like, what's next?
Black Sabbath singing about weed
Yeah, Sweet Leaves.
and
Yeah,
and cocaine as well.
yeah. I mean, cocaine's the most popular song type subject.
True, true, true. So my number two, and you guys are both gonna think this is number one, but it is in fact number two. That is gonna be that is gonna be the Who Sellout.
The Who? Oh wow.
The Who Sellout. Yes, that is my number two, not my number one. And yeah, I really wanted this to be my number one, but there's another album that not only has it been growing on me, but it's an album that I've known for many years, but it gets better and better with each listen, and I'm excited to talk about it when we get to it. But I mean, of course, we're gonna go through our honorable mentions and our dishonorable mention, of course. But the Who Sell Out. I mean, for the longest time, this was my favorite album of all time. It was an album that I've always really enjoyed, but has dropped quite a bit. But still one of my favorite albums of all time. Pardon me. Harmony City Sky, really good song. Heinz Baked Beans. I mean, I sincerely hope David number one isn't
Yeah,
David
he
Bowie.
have his debut album this year. That's right.
I mean, if I put an album that I gave 9.5 over all these 10 out of 10 albums, then that'll be interesting. But yeah, I'll say Heinz Baked Beans, pretty goofy song, but I love it. Marianne with the Shaky Hands. I love that song. Marianne with the Shaky Hands. Odorono, I love. Tattoo. Oh, love that song. Our love was. Our love was. I love that song. I Could See for Miles. I Can't Reach You. Madak. Relax. I'm the biggest fan of that song, apparently, because I don't think anyone else really cares for that song as much as I do.
Nah.
Sella Stingy. I Grew Briar. That's a great song. Sunrise, I love, and Riel. Really great song. I don't have much more to say because I think Briar pretty. I think Briar. It's kind of like how Briar was when I was describing his picks. It's like I think Briar pretty much summed it up pretty well. This is a really good album, and yeah, this was like their first like whoa album. Like this is like this is like when they really start to find their sound, and yeah, definitely not my favorite Who album anymore, but it's definitely up there for me.
Yeah, I feel like you and Bryer have definitely been connecting on these albums more than me. uh, I think you like more of the psychedelic out there albums, maybe more than I do. Or
Yeah, pretty much.
Guess who agrees with you?
Yep, Scott agrees with me.
I agrees 100% here with Who Sell Out. I See for Miles, yeah. That's my favorite song on the album.
My favorite song is still Rael on the album.
Rael, yeah, the closer. All right, so number 2 for me is one of my favorite Association albums, and that is I know Nick has this album, Inside Out, and Bryer has this album. I know he has this on CD as well.
I don't have it, but it's somewhere up there.
I don't have this album yet. It's definitely an album I need to get. It's my second favorite Association album, and if you notice from the last time and this time, I love the Association. They are one of my favorite bands that me and Nick went through and it's been another really great discography to go through to kind of learn more about this band that I knew a little bit about from their hit songs, but then getting more into them, great stuff. Like I said, I had their 2 other albums in my top 10 last time. Renaissance is my favorite, but this is a close second to Renaissance. Again, Association, love their sound, love their harmonies. It's one of the best harmony bands I've ever heard. That doesn't get enough credit. Me and Nick always said like this band doesn't get enough credit out. Kind of like Buffalo Springfield for me. This is another band's like people don't talk about these bands enough. They have some absolutely amazing albums, and yeah, this has 2 of their biggest hits, and it has my favorite Association song and one of my favorite songs of this year. Me and Nick both have this pretty high on our top 10 songs of the year. I can't remember what I had it, but I had it pretty high. I remember. And that is Never My Love. Oh my gosh, that song is so good. Always love that song, hearing on the radio growing up, listening to Oldie Station, and more. It's one of the greatest love songs ever made. And I love the lyrics, but love those harmonies are so good. Never my love, never my love. How do you think love will end? Oh my gosh. Amazing melody. It's just pure bliss listening to them sing. I love it. And the guitar. I love the guitar on there as well. So good. I think this is one where they get the new guitar player, maybe Ramos. And he does such a good job here. Also, Windy is another hit song on here. It's another super great song, super catchy. Everyone knows it's windy. Boom, boom, boom. I love that so much. Who bum, 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 bum. Such a catchy, upbeat number. Love that. Those are 2 big hit songs, but there's other great stuff here. On a Quiet Night, love that song. I love the silently, silently. So silently. Oh my gosh. Again, harmonies are so good. We Love Us. Great. When Love Comes to Me. Great song. Happiness Is, man. If you want a song to be upbeat on, if you want a song to, if you're sad, listen to this song. happiness is. It's like, oh, so upbeat and sunshiny type song. Um, Sometime is great. And then Rec Room for the Masses is such a cool closer to this album. It's definitely their most experimental song that they've done at this point, and definitely different than what they've done before. It has this kind of like this military drumming in it, and it kind of changes. The song kind of changes, like style, melodies and stuff like that, which is really cool. And it's kind of supposed to be kind of a Vietnam kind of protest song, but it's not real. It's a little more subtle about that. It's not real in your face, but I think so. I kind of like that they're trying something different with that, and it's cool. It's a really cool song. I think a great closer to the album. Anyway, Inside Out. I know they're just absolutely fantastic. Uh, Pop rock album from Association. Again, one of my favorite from them. And yeah, these first four albums are so good. As me and Nick talked about on his channel, it's like those are definitely four albums you have to get. Plus, I really liked the last album too. I thought actually was really good too. So definitely an album more people need to listen to. A band people need to listen to more, in my opinion. And so, yeah, all the way to number 2. I mean, on my list.
Would you increase the score to a 10, or is it still a 9.5?
So far, it's still been a 9.5. I guess I haven't upped the. That's a good question. I need to think about that again, probably. Reassess that.
I'll say that's like your number one, so your only album that you give a 10 to, pretty much.
You're right. Maybe it is a 10. I can't remember if I've upped. Did I up that? I don't remember. I did give 9.5. Reviewed it, but
not for the review or the album ranking, but I could see you upping it to a 10 at some point.
It could be. Yeah. I'm kind of surprised I didn't. Now that I think about it, I don't remember if I did. Oh yeah, you didn't like the Association as much. I think you got the debut album or what?
You got the debut album.
I like that album. That's a good album too. But
Scott's more of a 70s guy. He doesn't care for more of the 60s folk stuff like me and you do.
Inside Out is so good though. Definitely worth a listen, I think. Anyways. All right, so we're getting close to our number 1 favorite album of 1967. Almost 3 hours into the stream, we're gonna get to it. But
longer than the last one.
Yeah, it's been a pretty long one. This has been a big year, I guess. So you want to go around, do our honorable mentions, and then do the number 1s after that?
Yeah, I'll do my honorable mentions, and I'll do my one dishonorable mention.
Okay,
yeah.
So go around. So Bryer, you want to give some honorable mentions that didn't make it?
All right. So the first one I'll mention is the one that barely missed that almost would have been in the top 10, but Jimi Hendrix just at the last second took over, and that album would have been Procol Harum's debut. Their self-titled debut. That was the one I wanted to get in the top 10, but Jimmy just kind of squeaked in above it. Of course, you can kind of see there's that little poster I have of it back there, that little black and white thing. But yeah, that was one I considered. Other ones I considered, the Moody Blues, Days of Future Past, the Monkees, More of the Monkees, and Headquarters were also considered. Same with the Hollies, both Evolution and Butterfly were considered. Okay. The Beatles, Magical Mystery Tour, Something Else by the Kinks, I considered. The Rolling Stones, Between the Buttons, Buffalo Springfield again, and Strawberry Alarm Clock, Incense and Peppermints was another one that I considered.
Yeah.
And I also considered Jimi Hendrix's second album, Acts as Bold as Love, Sonny and Cher, In Case You're in Love. And then I also had Aretha Franklin, I Never Loved a Man the Way I Love You. And I'll mention about maybe one more honorable mention, and that would be The Association, Inside Out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's all the I have. I mean, there's other albums I have that I also like, but I'll keep it there. But now we get to the dishonorable mention, and this will be a fun one because 65. 65. The one I said I didn't necessarily hate it. It was just kind of the weakest one of the bunch. 66, I had a clear one album I didn't care for. This year I have options.
Really?
Yeah, I had options, but which one do I pick? I'd say there's like 5 albums I considered because I own them. But
And, you know,
yeah, I own them. But to me, the one that was the weakest was after really looking at it, it was actually pretty obvious. Least favorite, Sonny Bono interview.
oh man, that album came out this year.
Yep, 67. Yeah, Sonny Bono solo. You can just doing psychedelic folk. It and you have his vocal style. You can picture it in your head. You can actually hear it. You don't need to listen to this album. You can imagine it, and you can already tell that's not a good idea. Yeah, it's a slog. I mean, music's not that interesting, and yeah, Sonny's vocals just great on you the whole time. Like the second he opens his mouth, you're already you're already checking out. The first song is like what 10-ish minutes or so, and got this like sitar thing he's doing, and it doesn't work at all. Is to me, it's by far the worst thing. One of the worst albums I heard in my life, honestly. But yeah, this song that's my clear number
Yeah, that's
bottom
definitely
of the barrel.
yeah, it's a good pick. Probably I haven't heard it, but it sounds like it's a good
Good.
pick.
Yeah. I have a lot of honorable mentions. Incense and Peppermints by the Strawberry Alarm Clock.
You love that album.
Holland by the Supremes. The Supremes sing Holland Dozier Holland. That's what I meant to say.
Okay.
Gene Clark with the Gosden Brothers by Gene Clark. I Never Loved the Man the Way I Loved You by Aretha Franklin. Blaze by Herman's Hermits. There's a Kind of Hush by Herman's Hermits. Vanilla Fudge by Vanilla Fudge. With a Lot of Soul by the Temptations. Let's Live for Today by the Grassroots. Night and Rest the Armor by Peter Gordon. In London for a Team by Peter Gordon. The Family Way by Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
Flowers by the Rolling Stones. In Case You're Loved by Sonny and Cher. I Was Made a Lover by Stevie Wonder. Somebody at Christmas by Stevie Wonder. Mr. Fantasy by The Traffic. Inside Out by The Association. Carrying Out with Johnny Cash and June Carter by Johnny Cash. Friday on My Mind by The Easy Beats. Mellow Yellow by Donovan. Strange Days by The Doors. Grateful Dead by Grateful Dead. Happy Together by The Turtles. Winds of Change by The Animals. Groovin' by The Young Rascals. More of the Monkees by The Monkees. Headquarters by The Monkees. Small Faces by Small Faces. Reach Out by The Four Tops. Walk Away Renee / Pretty Ballerina by Left Bank. Days of Future Past by the Moody Blues. Magical Mystery Tour by the Beatles. Disraeli Gears by Cream. The Piper That Get to Dawn by Pink Floyd. Accessible as Love by Jimi Hendrix. Are You Experienced by Jimi Hendrix. The Doors by The Doors. There's Satanic Mentions Request by the Rolling Stones. John Wesley Harding by Bob Dylan. Between the Buttons by the Rolling Stones. Younger Than Yesterday by the Byrds. Smiley Smile by the Beatles. A Gift from a Flower to a Garden by Donovan. Those are all my honorable mentions.
I was gonna say, I think I know what your number one is, but now I don't know because you just mentioned it in your honorable mentions. I was thinking The Doors is your number one, but now it's like, okay.
So, my least favorite album of the year. I mean, of course, the Sonny Bono album is definitely by far the worst, but I'd say my least favorite album in terms of albums that are good would be Sgt. Pepper's. I think it's, in my opinion, I think it's the Beatles' most overrated album. I mean, after Revolver and Rubber Soul and Help and the White Album and Magical Mystery Tour, I think the Beatles have better albums, in my opinion, and I'm sure I think Jason agrees with me as well. But
yeah.
I think, in my opinion, I think Sgt. Pepper's has a lot of great songs on there. I mean, title track's really good. Of course, With the Love for My Friends has some great harmonies. Lucy Sky with Diamonds, I mean, that song's awesome. Getting Better, I don't care for that song. Fixing the Hole is decent. She's Leaving Home, easily the best song on the album. For me personally, I don't get how I really don't get how Ryan could not like that song personally, but
Yeah.
it is what it is. Be it for the benefit of Mr. Kite, too chaotic for my liking. I mean, even I love After Breathing at Baxter's, but I think for some reason that song's too much for me. It's weird. Within You Without You, I'm sorry. I love that song. It's one of my favorites on the album. When I'm 64, I'm not gonna say anything. I'll let my review on Scott Jacob's channel say the review on
Yeah.
itself. Lovely Rita. I love that song. Good Morning, I think is lousy. Sgt. Pepper Reprise, it's all right. Here's my biggest hot take. I think A Day in the Life is their most overrated song.
I know.
It's their most overrated song. I don't know. I never got the hype of it. Even when I was like really obsessed with the Beatles, I never got it. I wish I did. I really did. I really do. But I think there's a lot better Beatles songs. I mean, Taxman, For No One, Eleanor Rigby, Nowhere Man. The songs that I really like on Sgt. Pepper's, most of the White Album. I don't know. I just, for some reason, Day in Life never clicked with me like it did with so many other people. I liked it. I mean, it's a decent song, but I never understood how people could say it's their best song. I never did, never will. People compare it to like Bohemian Rhapsody. I'm like, no, Bohemian Rhapsody is way better. That's just my opinion, though. I never got the comparisons. People are like, that's their masterpiece. I'm like, I can name like 50 other Beatles songs I think are their masterpiece. I mean, I think the Beatles have many masterpieces. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Hey Jude, Let It Be, Long and Winding Road, Here Comes the Sun, Something. I can name many other songs I think are that I would rather them be called their masterpiece than A Day in Life. But again, of course, having that said, of course, the worst album is definitely the Sonny Bono album, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it justice by talking any more about it. That album sucks.
It says Something Else by the Kinks, Evolution by Hollies, John Wesley Harding by Bob Dylan.
John Wesley Harding.
Our mention is the Davy Bowie's debut album.
That was another contender for worst for me.
That was a contender.
For me, that was an honorable mention.
Yeah, that's interesting. Everybody seems to not like it, but I guess Nick did. That must have been a contentious rank video. All right, for me, yeah, there's so many good songs. I mean, good albums here that didn't make my top 10. Number 10 was so hard. I had a lot of albums that I had to consider, and I ended up putting Happy Together on there. But I mean, other albums that I really considered here. The Who Sell Out. Yeah, I'm sorry I don't have that on my list. Everybody has it on their list except for me. I like that album. I just barely missed out on me. Flowers by the Rolling Stones. I really like that album. Ruby Tuesday, so good. Something Else by the Kinks. Yeah, another good album. And Kinks have been making I think the last 2 years maybe, but they didn't quite make it on this one. Though Waterloo Sunset is one of the great songs this year for sure. Evolution by the Hollies made my honorable mention. Definitely consideration there. Groovin' by the Young Rascals. I don't think anybody mentioned that one. That's a pretty good album. I like a lot of stuff from there. Walk Away Renee / Pretty Ballerina by the Left Bank. Yeah, love Walk Away Renee. Love that song. Bee Gees First by the Bee Gees. Really wanted that on here. Couldn't quite get on here. It's been my favorite Bee Gees album so far. It's a really good Bee Gees album. And then lastly, I also have John Wesley Harding on my honorable mention list. Yeah, it seemed like this was an album that kind of went back. It wasn't a folk. It's more of a folk album than a folk rock. He was going more folk rock with the last couple of albums or something, and then he went back to kind of just doing folk on this one, which I kind of enjoyed. Though it didn't have a lot of the bigger songs on it. It had a couple of really good songs on it, though, in my opinion, and so it gets on here. This honorable mention, it's funny. I never write them down, so I always forget what. I would say I don't. If the Grateful Dead, if they had an album, that would probably be my number one. And I can't remember if they debuted it yet. I know their debut album I really didn't like, but I forget which year that was.
They Grateful Dead debuted this year.
Okay, I know I really didn't like that Grateful Dead album that came out. So that would probably be my number one on there. Though, yeah, you mentioned Bathing for Baxters. I did not like that album, and Velvet Underground Nico. That's to me, that's my Sergeant Pepper's for you. It's like I don't get that album, but anyways. All right, so Bryer, the last 2 years, your number one has been a Beach Boys album. Is it going to be 3 years in a row for Beach Boys?
Heck no.
I say I think they're gonna be like the Chiefs were. I don't think they're gonna three-peat.
I know. I was gonna say
yeah,
that.
no.
No 3-peat.
Yeah, nope. I did Wild Honey. That was the highest. That's the highest one. In any case, my number one, and yep, it's gotta be The Doors.
All right, debut.
Right. So yeah, I do prefer the debut than their second album. Because this song has a good blend. You have some big songs, and then you have some nice deep cuts too. You start off with Break On Through, and that's like a great way to introduce the band, kind of this kind of more catchier type of song. And yeah, the drum, I really like the drumming on the track. A little bit of a bossa nova feel to it, especially during the verses, especially in the beginning. I really like Jim Morrison's vocals on that one, just especially during the chorus. It's just this very catchy chorus, just how much he really digs in, how gritty his vocals are on the track. Very good. Then you have Soul Kitchen, has a nice keyboard intro from Ray. Gets you in the mood, and just a nice vibe overall. The Crystal Ship, another kind of a nice, good kind of atmospheric type of song. Really like the vibe that went through on that one. 20th Century Fox, getting another really catchy one. Getting a really nice vocal from Jim on that one. Then you get to Alabama Song, Whiskey Bar, kind of quirky, kind of vaudevillian sort of thing they're going for, and I love it. I love that. I love Whiskey Bar. I think it's a lot of fun. It has this kind of almost dark carnival vibe, which I think is very cool. Like that one a lot. And then of course you have probably their biggest song, and that's of course Light My Fire. And yeah, there is a single version. I gotta say the single version sucks. I hate the single version. I hate they cut out the jamming
version.
Yeah, that's like the single version is like 3 minutes. The original is like close to over 5 or 6 minutes.
A long song, yeah.
Yeah, close to 7 actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the jamming section. Of course, the main song's great. I mean, it has that iconic keyboard melody, like da, 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 da. Like I love that a lot. And yeah, but the jamming part, I just really like. There's each member gets a chance to shine. Ray's going hard on his keyboard, and great guitar solo from Robbie Krieger, and the drumming again from John Densmore is excellent. I love the feel of it. So of course it's a big song for a reason. I do like it. Then you have Backdoor Man to follow it up, and Jim is just shouting on this track, like he's just really shouting out that he's a backdoor man, like really proudly proclaiming it. And I just think,
backdoor man.
Yeah, I have fun with that one. I Look at You is another nice one. And then you have End of the Night, another good, very kind of moody song, and just the feel of it, I just love. Take It As It Comes, kind of a nice, good song here. But then, of course, get last song, which is The End, 11 minutes on here, and I love The End.
Oh, okay.
That is one of my favorite Doors song. Yeah, again, you have another dark song. Again, kind of similar to what I said about the Velvet Underground a bit more, because again, the Doors were definitely not like your typical like Sunshine, Summer of Love, Peace and Love sort of thing. Like, no, they definitely go dark, and I love it when they go dark, because the overall tone that Jim is portraying just has this very kind of menacing vibe to it. Like, it's very foreboding. And then of course, as the song progressed, you're kind of traveling along, like you're kind of seeing where this goes. And then eventually you get to the part where Jim goes on his famous or infamous kind of rant, kind of monologue he does, talking about killing his family.
Killing-
Um, but it's just like it's so out of nowhere. I just can't help but enjoy it because it's just
Okay.
like it's just so random. And again, it came about by accident because it was during a live show because Jim was late and the rest of the band went out to find him, and they found him blacked out, high on acid, and they just brought him back to the show. And they did the end, and Jim was kind of seemed okay, but in his like high state, that's the first time he actually unleashed that monologue, which I think got him banned from I think it was at the Whiskey a
Oh,
Go Go. They got banned from for
I'm
saying
sorry.
that. But of course, the public got a good kick out of it for the most part.
He was
Um,
getting in trouble for
oh yeah, he was like I guess he was. You can say he was one of Rock's first,
for
one of their first bad boys, if you will.
Asia antics. Yeah, we're
Yeah, which made him made him stand out amongst other frontmen at that point.
yeah.
Um,
And him and Jimi Hendrix both die at age 27 of
yeah,
doses.
exactly. Um, but yeah, again, story's a bit bonkers, but again, I enjoy a lot, and you have Jim cursing on it too, which kind of
Oh, that's right.
yeah, which is again pretty out there for the time.
Yeah.
But I still think it's cool. And just kind of ends the song on just this kind of very cool, very memorable note. I think it's an epic in itself. Um, but yeah, it's to me, it's a perfect debut album, definitely one of the great ones. And yeah, I still play this album pretty frequently, beginning to end. But yeah, that is number one for me.
Yeah, so for me, my favorite album of the year. Um, I'd like to say they're the champions of 1967, and this was I mean, 65 was the Who. You guys expected that. 66 was Simon and Garfunkel. Oh, 67 is Jefferson Airplane.
Okay.
Surrealistic Pillow, number
Artist-
one. That's my favorite album of 67. So yeah, it's got new.
I forgot about that one. I didn't mention that one. I like that album. It should have been an honorable mention.
But it's interesting because looking back at the albums that I did throughout the years, so Johnny Cash for 1960,
Logic
Marvelettes for 61. They were the champions of 61.
and Johnny.
Johnny Cash again for
Yeah,
62. 63. I had Johnny Cash, so he was a back to back.
back Johnny Cash.
64 was the Beach Boys, so the Beach Boys were prevented a three-peat for Johnny Cash. So I guess the Beach Boys were like the Eagles in that case. 65 was the Who, of course, with My Generation. 66 was Simon Garfunkel. 67, Jefferson Airplane. And that's the last time you'll ever see them in number one. So they're like the Jets of albums of the year because it's like a one and done for them. But yeah, I think this album's amazing though. Surrealistic Pillow. This take two encapsulates the San Francisco summer of love of 67 the best. I mean, of course, Grateful Dead, I thought that was a good showcase of that as well, but this album does it much better. For one, what's interesting about that is that, forgetting the name of the guy, but I'm sure Scott will correct me in the comments, as he always does. The guitarist, the main leader of Grateful Dead, was their
Jerry
quote.
Garcia, yeah.
Jerry Garcia. Jerry Garcia was their quote spiritual advisor.
Oh man.
They was their spiritual advisor on the album. And yeah, unlike Bathing at Baxter's, where it's like an album full of LSD and acid inspiration, this is like an album that's like inspired by weed. So it's not as crazy or as out there. She Has Funny Cars, great song. Very, very fun way to open up the album. Then you get to Somebody to Love, which that's a great song. Don't you want somebody to love? Don't you need somebody to love? Great song. My Best Friend. I love that song. Oh, you're my best friend. You are. That's a great song. I love My Best Friend. I wish more people talked about it. It's a nice song, My Best Friend. Today. Oh man, I love Today. It's Jerry Garcia does the acoustic guitar on this song. So Jerry Garcia has a little bit of involvement on this album. If I had a nickel for an album that I really liked, that Jerry Garcia had involvement on, I would have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's strange that it happened twice. But yeah, I love Today. It's a great album, a great song. I mean, Today, I know that I love you more than you do. Great song. Coming Back to Me. I love that song. It's one of my all-time favorite Jefferson Airplane songs. It's like a 5-minute ballad, but I thought it was really good. 3/5 of a Mile in 10 Seconds. It's an interesting title for a song, but I really enjoy it. Definitely picks the pace back up after that slow ballad. DCBA 25. I love that song. That's a great song. How Do You Feel? Great Mamas and Papas inspired song. I love that song. How do you feel? Do you know how I feel? Oh, I love that song. Embryonic Journey. To anyone who's watching right now, who's a big fan of the Friends show, you'll know that they played that at the very end of the show. Great instrumental track though. Acoustic guitar. White Rabbit, I mean, of course, that's a very iconic song about Alice in Wonderland. Great song. Plastic Fantastic Lover, that's an interesting way to close out the album. It sounds like something Simon and Garfunkel would make if they had a 67 album. It's interesting, but I really enjoy it. For some reason, this album it keeps getting better for me. The more I revisit it, the more I appreciate it. And this is on lists, but like I feel like I'm the only one in our group who really, really likes it. Like I'm definitely the biggest fan of this album out of everyone in our group. Yeah, I love this album. My pleasure to say that Jefferson Airplane is the 1967 album champions.
Yeah, unseated the Who Sell Out, which was your favorite for a long time.
They pulled the upset. They pulled the upset.
Exactly. Scott, what else could it be? We know it's
obviously David Bowie, 67.
David Bowie. We all know Sgt. Pepper's is Scott's favorite album, one of his favorite albums of all time. Well, we're talking about three-peats. The Beach Boys didn't three-peat. The Chiefs didn't three-peat. Johnny Cash didn't three-peat. But guess who does three-peat? The Beatles. My favorite album, sorry, Peppers. Magical Mystery Tour is my favorite album of this year. Yes, had to get Beatles in here, and yes, third year in a row, Beatles took my number one spot. We had Rubber Soul 65, Revolver 66, and Magical Mystery Tour. If you can't tell, I'm a big Beatles fan, and so they're going to hit the number one spot more than anybody else. In fact, 63, Please Please Me was my number one. So this is the fourth time that we've done this. Has definitely been the dominant band in my group. I said every album's made my top 10 so far anyways. And yeah, another interesting thing is I was looking at Breyer's number one, The Doors. Me and Nick didn't have it in our top 10 at all. Nick's number one, Surrealistic Pillow, me and Bryer didn't have that in our top 10 at all. And now we got Magical Mystery Tour, and neither of you had this in your top 10. It's insane. Our number ones are just, I don't want to say vastly different, because I know Nick likes The Doors, and I like Surrealistic Pillow and stuff like that and whatnot, and you guys like Magical Mystery Tour. But for some reason, we just haven't, our favorite album hasn't hit as much with the other two, evidently. I think it's very interesting just to point out, because I'm like, how can you not put this in your top 10? But that's how it is.
I want to put that in my top 10, but Flying, Blue Jay Way, and kind of Your Mother Should Know kind of stopped me from doing that. I mean, I gave it a 10 out of 10. I feel like that's fair, but
Yeah.
It's just those three tracks prevent me from wanting to put it on my list. Sorry, Jason. It's a great album, though. There's so many great songs on there.
Oh my gosh, so many good songs here. Yeah, I mean, here's another psychedelic album cover for you, Bryer. I like this cover personally, but man, yeah, this album has some of the greatest Beatles songs on it, and at least Nick had it at number 3 on his list. So me and Nick, of course, agree on it. How great this album is, and it's such an interesting album because it's based off of a movie that came out that the Beatles wrote and directed. It's a bomb of a film. It's not a good film at all. It was like a made-for-TV film that showed up like on the BBC or whatever, and it was a black and white, and it needed to be in color. That was a big deal. But it's a mess of a movie. Obviously, the Beatles don't know how to write movies or direct movies. But we do get some absolutely amazing music in it. And in Britain, of course, the songs on side one were all this album didn't come out in England. This came out in America. They came out with the double EP, which had all the songs in the movie. But in America, we get that. Plus, we get some of their great singles as well. And that's what makes this album so great, in my opinion. It's one of my favorite Beatle albums of all time. To me, it's a very underrated album. I don't think it gets enough love in some senses compared to Sgt. Pepper's or something like that. I think it's much better than Sgt. Pepper's for me. I mean, just going with the movie, Magical Mystery Tour is such a great opener. Love that as an opener. Fool on the Hill, love that song. It's one of my favorite Paul McCartney songs. Another great kind of piano, and great writing as well. I will agree, Flying, Blue Jay Ray, everybody will agree, I think, that's the 2 weak songs on the album. I agree. They're not great songs. Definitely the worst songs on here. Your Mother Should Know, I like. It's not one of my favorite, but I still kind of like that. And then I Am the Walrus. Oh my gosh, one of the greatest psychedelic rock songs of all time. Love the orchestra, how they use that orchestra. It's so cool. And come on, I am he is yours, me is we all together, and see how they run like pigs in a gun, see how they fly. I don't know, it's the craziest lyrics you've ever heard. Then you get to that, I am the walrus, goo goo goo. You're the Eggman. What is an Eggman? Why I'm the walrus? What is goo goo goo?
The only Eggman I know is from Sonic.
There's an Eggman. It's so great. I love I'm the Walrus. That's side one. Side two, then you get some of the best singles that they put out, which is so cool because they never put singles out on their albums. But in America, we're like, we'll put your singles out on albums and make them even better. And we get Hello Goodbye was the number one single for them. Great song. Strawberry Fields Forever. Yeah, I agree. It's one of my favorite all-time Beatles songs. It's in my top 15. Kind of has a bit of psychedelic in there. Penny Lane's my favorite song on the album. That's also in my top 15 favorite Beatles songs. Love that song. It's definitely one of those songs that, like I said, if you're in a bad mood, this is a good song to listen to. It always puts me in a good mood when I hear it. That's like, I cannot not smile when I hear the song. Those horns, everything. Penny Lane is in my ears, in my eyes. Bum bum bum, whatever. Oh, so good. Baby You're Rich Man is a great deep cut, one of the best deep cuts of all time. Love that song. And then you end with All You Need Is Love. Another, I think it might have been another number one hit single for them, maybe, but I know it was a big single for them as well. Obviously, they played it, as I said, at the World Television event thing, global thing, which was really cool. That's a really great song. Again, great use of horns and orchestra music. But yeah, this song went from being really good to that side two, making it one of the best sides of all time. I think when me and Adam did our top 5 favorite sides, that was on my top 5 favorite one sides or something like that. Is that second side is so good with all those big hit songs. Just Penny Lane and Strawberry Fields, just those two together, just make this one of the greatest albums when you have those two songs together. Anyway, so yeah, I go on and on, but yeah. Now, the Beatles for me, Do It Again, 3 in a row. Magical Mystery Tour, another absolutely amazing album from them. All right. Yes, Jim Gary did cover it. Not too bad either. All right, so we've gone over 3 hours and 15, 16 minutes. So pretty good year. We had a lot to say about this year. Thank you for anybody watching, man. I had 5 viewers at the moment. I don't know who's even watching. I just know Scott is. He's the only one that's been talking in the comments. So thanks a lot, Scott, for playing along. Really enjoyed seeing your list as well. And thanks for everybody watching this. I appreciate it. And definitely chime in what is your favorite album from this year, 67. And if you agree with us at all and whatnot. If you don't agree with us, please just don't be too mean. Like, don't tell me I can't listen to Jimi Hendrix. Just don't do that kind of crap. It'll be okay. Besides that, thank you so much to Bryer and Nick for joining me again on this big journey. And so we got 68 coming up next that we'll prepare for, hopefully next month, cover that. More psychedelic rock to come, I think. Any last words, Bryer or Nick?
Great year. Looking forward again to 68.
Don't do heroin.
Very good. More you know. Dun, dun.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Hell of a drug. Thank you, and have a good rest of the week or weekend.